It's not every day that I respond to nearly 5-hour-long video essays, but I'm probably the only one on here crazy enough to do that. So it is what it is. We've reached the final boss of Superman criticism.
Good luck with that.
Before I get started, I wanted to give a thanks to Exopokery and Comic Legend from League Entertainment. They came up with a lot of good defenses that I didn't even think of, which will factor into much of what I say in this video, alongside me amending some criticisms that I had towards the plot. With that said, let's start the show.
And here we go. Warner's attempt to speedrun their way to an MCU-sized franchise came to an ignominious end, and the sensible thing would have been for it to go away for a very, very long time. But things are not allowed to go away. Like the caged cow, IP must be milked to exhaustion before being sold off for parts. And so, Warner turned to a man for whom milking it is first nature, James Gunn.
I know we haven't gotten to the actual film yet, but this point was so nonsensical that I just had to address it. If DC had such an awful reputation because of the DCEU, why is the sensible option to allow that to remain its reputation for a very, very long time? Releasing the Batman is exactly what was needed after the terrible adaptation in the DCEU. The same way Batman Begins is what Batman needed in order to save his reputation after Batman and Robin. The last major appearance of Superman was in the Snyder Cut, which was 4 years ago. And if we only count the big screen, we'd have to refer to the original Justice League from 8 years ago. I don't know why it's such a bad idea to fix his reputation instead of letting people remember Superman very badly in movies. It seems like he's trying to argue that this film shouldn't exist at all, which sounds a little bit like
a lot of disingenuous people online that just want to hate on the film. They don't want to make it better, right? They want to hate on it.
What his second nature is, nobody has yet discovered. Mr. Gunn's credentials can be boiled down to one good Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Okay, I know this doesn't have much to do with the review, but I'm genuinely curious what the arguments against Guardians of the Galaxy 2 will be. I'm dying to know.
Not only has Superman been around for 3 years, 30 years if you include his backstory, but the world itself is not at its beginning. Metahumans are not just now appearing, they have been here for 3 centuries. The stakes are not just starting to ramp up, they are already worldwide. The story is not at its start, it is somewhere in the middle. Now, all of these things will go on to pose a couple of problems for the film, but it's the last of them that poses the biggest problem. Sure, you can skip origin stories. The MCU did it with Peter Parker quite recently. Yeah, you can drop the audience into the middle of history. The Lord of the Rings takes this approach. But what you very rarely see, because it very rarely works, is beginning in the middle of the story.
The middle of the story starts with Lex releasing the video of his parents, not Superman being defeated by Ultraman. The reason the story starts with this is because it's the first direct move Lex makes on Superman within his plan. We're given the context that Superman's loss is a product of his involvement in Bravia, so we're not missing information. I understand he's leading to a point about how dialogue is done, but I felt it necessary to correct him on his usage of middle, as that has a specific connotation in the context of story structure.
There is a very simple reason for this, and it is called the audience. This setup places the audience in a constantly inferior position. Every single character in this world knows more, or should know more, about the setting and much more about each other than we do. There is no obvious audience surrogate who is as new to these events as we are, and that makes it very difficult to avoid as you know exposition, which is a problem that would cause talented writers a real headache, and James Gunn isn't one of those. James Gunn just says, fuck it, as you know. It's not my intent to front-load this video too much, but it's one of the movie's biggest structural flaws. Unless you're one of the vanishingly small number of comics readers, you won't have heard of many of the characters in this movie. Even if you have heard of them, you don't know the versions you're given in this movie. Nobody going in knows the world state, the relationships, the history, where things come from, or how they work. It implies the existence of an awful lot of world building, and therefore invites significant criticism when that world building is found to be absent, as it will be. The world James Gunn has built has 3 centuries of history to show, if not to tell, and it entirely fails at this task.
This movie isn't about 3 centuries before Superman 2025. This movie is about Superman 2025. Just because they establish information about its history doesn't mean the movie is obligated to give you a detailed history lesson about the world. They only need to establish information relevant to the story.
The problem this poses has very little to do with the suspension of disbelief and a lot more to do with the suspension of all critical faculties. As we will see from pretty much the very next scene, the minute you start asking questions is the minute this movie falls apart. Speaking of, we move into our next scene, which is our first trailer scene. Superman crashes, he summons Krypto. Krypto drags him to the Fortress of Solitude, where we meet K2S4, robot number 4. But yeah, it's voiced by Alan Tudyk, and the voice and the mannerisms and the humor are very similar.
Skipping ahead so we can move towards the actual criticism.
So yeah, we're gonna be calling him K2S4 for all of the 2 scenes in which he's relevant.
He looked at me.
Do not ask why this mere automaton with no consciousness presents with feelings and emotions, because if you do that, you will be accused of lacking media literacy.
Or you'll receive a very simple explanation, and it's the fact that these robots are programmed to have a sense of humor, and therefore are capable of engaging in sarcastic humor like we've just heard. They're not just robotic in their speech or body movements, they're programmed to act more like humans. There are numerous examples of Gary doing just that.
I'm sorry, friend.
Cleaned yourself up pretty good, too.
You think so?
Yeah.
Maybe one day you'll give me a name.
4's a name.
So is Gary.
To take this very obvious joke literally is to read this film in bad faith. The joke here is that they are technically built robots rather than living beings driven by natural brain chemistry, but they're ultimately programmed to act as if they do anyway. Hell, the way he chooses to state this in this hyper-specific manner is part of the humor in itself.
If I had any emotional capacity whatsoever, I'd be concerned about her partying.
It's almost as if he's wording this in this oddly specific manner because he is programmed to care and is simply making a joke about how he's still a robot. Now, if anyone tries to counter me by saying the jokes aren't funny, I'll simply counter by saying that's not an objective argument. You can find it unfunny or corny, but that doesn't change the information that I've provided.
I put your parents' message on to soothe you.
Now, this is a very minor quibble compared to some of the things we have in store, but they didn't know he was coming. It is very important that the robots did not know Superman was coming, and that they have functionally no awareness of what happens outside of their fortress, meaning that K2S4 put the parents' message on to soothe Superman despite not knowing that Superman was coming or that he needed soothing, because the script says that we have to introduce the message here.
Okay, Platoon. What happens the next time we see the robots?
Superman, I preemptively put up this soothing.
This directly implies that Gary does this ahead of time when he expects a Superman appearance. Sure, he didn't expect Superman to be injured like this, but he expected him to return nonetheless since he left Krypto with them before he left.
The message begins to glitch.
The message was damaged in transit from Krypton to Earth. But what is there? We love you more than heaven, our son. We love you more than land. Our beloved home will soon be gone forever. But hope vitalizes our hearts, and that hope is you, Kal-El. We have searched the universe for a home where you can do the most good.
And now, let's begin. Fucking them all to death!
And the rest of the message is lost.
Okay, but he knows all of that. It's quite possible they wrote the 12 robot into the scene as an excuse for this exposition, but 12 is not a proper audience surrogate, and 12 doesn't need the English translation of this message. She is a robot. The robots translated this message.
I could start by mentioning that Superman is also voicing the message, which implies that the tradition is to voice the message together when listening, but I don't even have to do that. 3 hours ago, Superman left Krypto with the robots, so if 12 is new, she was created less than 3 hours ago, which means she could be at any number of stages of memory intake. 12 could have been created 2 hours ago, 1 hour ago, 10 minutes ago. It's left ambiguous as to how new she is, but it has to be below 3 hours. In the background, we see unfinished Superman robots, so she must have been one of them when Superman left. So it would have taken time to set up basic features to bring 12 up to speed with the rest of them, and Superman's return likely would have interrupted the process since their priorities shifted to helping Superman, which would include downloading chunks of data. And before I get the tech-illiterate response of, "It's a robot, so it should know everything," memory and storage consist of numerous different files. So if you disconnect to do something else, you are stopping the process of data transfer, and memories for robots are files of data within their systems. And since they can learn data through interactions, explaining this to 12 is still doing part of the job while they're helping Superman.
Meanwhile, a new character is approaching the Fortress of Solitude. This is the Engineer. It is at once name, title, job, and description. I don't really know how she got here from Metropolis so quickly, given that Metropolis is over there, and here we're basically in the Arctic, and we established that Superman only arrived here about 3 minutes ago.
If only there was a scene establishing that the Engineer can fly. If only we saw the Engineer flying almost as fast as Superman. Oh, that's in the movie. Let's not forget that Superman is in a weakened state, so he's not going to be flying at top speed.
Surely she can't fly as fast as Superman.
Okay, I don't know why I even bothered with the last counter because you did the job for me. You highlighted a scene where she's keeping up with him flying and was even able to grab him during the fight.
And it's impossible to know how she got here so quickly because I have no idea really where anything is in relation to anything else.
They know that Superman is in Metropolis, and you showed a scene where the Engineer was able to keep up with Superman and Ultraman, when Ultraman would have full reason to fly at full speed. How on earth are you confused as to how she got there so quickly if Superman in an injured state got there so quickly? Like, how do you write that in a video script?
Picking just a random example, The Dark Knight Rises has the same time-distance fuckery as Superman does.
There's no way you compared a normal guy getting across the planet seemingly too quickly to someone who is shown to fly almost as fast as Superman. Whether you see this as an issue in The Dark Knight Rises or not, it should be abundantly clear why this is a stupid comparison to make.
And yet, the Superman movie has been given, at least at the time of recording, a pass, based on no reason more substantive than vibes.
And you've given your own review a pass for nothing more substantive than "I didn't pay attention, but I need to shit on the movie anyway." Strawmanning is fun.
If this were a Marvel film, it would be criticized far more harshly than it has been so far, and it would have deserved it.
You're saying this after the DCEU had a massive streak of bad reviews. Do I even need to show how Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, or Justice League were received? What kind of argument is this? The amount of Kobe's resorting to make the praise of Superman seem unjustified is genuinely pathetic. Like, this is sad to listen to.
I get that vibes might satisfy your girlfriend. They do not form a proper basis for media analysis.
Neither does implying that people only praise this movie because of vibes and because it's a DC movie. But sure, I'd like to get back to discussing the movie that you're failing to criticize.
Sir, you are only 83% restored to health.
What does that even mean? Come on, James.
There is a process behind the sun healing Superman, and it was only 83% finished. They have scans providing them detailed information about the damage done to his body, which means they would also have scans providing them detailed information for how much his body was healed from these damages. I mean, I don't know why I had to explain this since the film already said that he was 83% restored to health, and we see the medical technology they're using, but this is apparently something I have to explain in detail, even though this review just complained about the film being overly expository. Now you want it to be overly expository to explain something that has obvious implications?
Superman is upset to find that Crypto has gone a bit mad and destroyed large parts of the fortress interior. This is supposed to be funny and endearing.
Superman robots, I thought I told you to keep an eye on him.
I feel like you should have come up with a better name than that.
Which is not an objective argument against the film or his character, but okay.
Crypto begins to bite Superman's ankles, and it's at this point, 6 minutes into the movie, that you know whether you're going to find the dog cute or irritating. Given its prominence in the marketing, you would expect it to play a much bigger role than it in fact gets. The good bit of Guardians 3 showed James Gunn was able to exploit very cheap animals in pain emotional pulls, but then give a proper story to them with something approaching proper characters. I say the good bit of Guardians 3 because the rest of that movie was really quite bad. But alas, Yes, it seems as if the lesson James Gunn has taken from that experience is that people like animals regardless of context.
It's no secret that James Gunn loves animals, so I'm not going to pretend that there wasn't a personal motivation here, but to claim that he decided to throw in animals regardless of context is something he will fail to substantiate. Crypto is used to show the strength of Superman's patience in smaller ways that humans can relate to. Dog troubles is a perfectly relatable struggle to utilize for this. What's so bad about using Crypto for this other than pointing out that he's an animal?
So, here is Crypto. Crypto doesn't get a rocket arc.
Crypto isn't the same character as Rocket, nor is he meant to have as big of a role as him. Why is this a point?
Superman, keen to get back to the fight, flies off directly over the engineer, making it quite lucky that he wasn't looking down.
What's lucky about that? Superman's priority is Metropolis being in danger, not someone hiking in Antarctica, which is something normal people have done.
Or using any of his many superpowered attributes, vision, hearing, and so on.
Why would Superman use his X-ray vision or super hearing on someone just passing by, as opposed to finding out what's happening in Metropolis, where his actual focus is?
The fortress begins to retreat back into the ice. It is also quite lucky that the fortress has no means of scanning or observing its own exterior.
It does. It scans its entrance for Superman's DNA. The engineer is far away from the entrance, just as anyone walking around here would. It doesn't scan literally all of Antarctica to monitor what everyone's doing, which would be a weird invasion of privacy if he did that.
Wait, didn't James Gunn say the goofy flying shot from the trailer wasn't going to be in the movie? I guess it's one of his smaller lies.
Are you serious right now? The shot in the commercial is not the same as the one in the movie. I can show both right now as I speak. These are two different takes, which means they're two different shots. So when Gunn says that the commercial shot is not the one they used, he's correct. It's not in the movie. Do your research before claiming things are lies without a basis.
Am I the only one who did the reading?
This is a slightly unusual structure, and it does give the impression they just weren't sure where to jump to titles. The pre-titles bit wasn't really a prologue, it was there to tell us we weren't getting one of those. Welcome to the story. You've missed a bit, some stuff's happening I guess. Title slate.
The opening shows you the conflict that led to Superman losing the fight, and shows him recovering so we see him confronted again. I don't see how this doesn't serve as a prologue when it introduces us to the world and the relevant context that causes the main events of the story.
Meanwhile, in Metropolis, the Hammer of Baravia is shouting at a building.
Your Superman has abandoned you. The people of Baravia will not ignore him inserting himself into our affairs.
Things here could spiral out of control very quickly. If metahumans have been around for 300 years, you would think that some kind of system would be in place governing their use and their actions. We will see a teeny tiny bit of that presently with the debut of the corporate gimmick squad. But what you take from this scene is that Superman is de facto the American superhero. And so his involvement in Baravia means that random buildings and civilians in Metropolis are fair game? Because, you know, America isn't known to take that shit lying down.
In the movie, they don't treat Superman as a threat over his actions in Baravia.
Big Blue stopped the war. Naive, maybe, but well-intentioned.
Without solid proof of malicious intent, it's just not worth the risk.
Am I the only one who did the reading?
Superman is so powerful that they have no means of policing his actions, and as long as they bring an overall net good to the world, they're not interested in taking action against him. So how is it a contradiction that Superman defending America doesn't get him in hot water?
You fought some pretty major wars because people have attacked your buildings.
How does this relate to the US in the film? Do you want the US to engage in war over a threat that Superman is handling? One that's not even confirmed to be from Baravia? If not, then I fail to see the relevance this has.
You might have heard of one of them at least. It's called Last Week. But I have to stress the point. 300 years. It took less than 10 years for the MCU to introduce the Sokovia Accords. The Avengers Initiative began as a quasi-governmental initiative under Nick Fury, who was answering to the Council. The presence of superheroes naturally raises questions about legitimacy, jurisdiction, oversight, and management. And a believable world history cannot shirk these questions.
They address it in the film. Superman is so powerful that as long as he's bringing a net positive to the world, they don't really want to take action against him due to the risk this would bring. And if Superman steps out of line on his own, they'll appoint Planet wants to go after Superman. What more elaboration is needed?
The movie expects you to accept that metahumans, gods, and monsters have been around for 300 years, but it has no way of accounting for it.
In what way? Explain an event or detail in the movie that would be different if they did account for how long metahumans have existed for.
And it presents as though they have not been around for that period of time. The movie's sole device is an appeal to normalcy. Everybody treats these things as pretty unremarkable when they occur, which is evidence that they've been here for ages and everyone's gotten used to them.
What's the problem with that? Genuinely, that makes sense if they existed for a long time. This should feel normal to them.
But the way it actually plays out, the normalcy makes the world surreally detached from itself. Says the film, but a couple of blocks away, all of this is being masterminded behind the scenes, so it is not what it appears. And that excuses people's inappropriate reactions to it. It is not as it appears in a way that isn't actually going to fix the absent world building and rules I've just identified.
I'm sorry, what absent world building did you identify? You've highlighted 0 moments where the metahumans existing for 300 years wasn't accounted for by the movie.
Anyway, though, Lex Luthor is here, and he is in cahoots with the Hammer of Baravia. So again, we join the film middle of character, middle of world, middle of universe, middle of world building, middle of story. Lex is already a villain, and the movie wastes no time establishing that.
Okay, let's start with the middle of character. This isn't a story about Lex Luthor becoming a supervillain. How does this make this the middle of Lex's story? You say this is middle of world, which I have no clue what the hell that means. Do you want the story to start 4 billion years ago when the world technically began? What is this word salad disguising itself as detailed criticism? I ask the same question regarding middle of universe. What are you saying? Middle of world building is basically a different way of saying middle of world or middle of universe, and it's just as incomprehensible of a statement. Middle of story was talked about earlier, but it seems to me like he just came up with as many variations as he could, just to make his arguments sound more substantive than they really are. With all of this word salad, there's really nothing to chew on.
It means it's left itself little choice but to backfill reasons for it later, which you could do in dialogue or in flashbacks or as a very last recourse clunky exposition, and the movie is going to do a lot of clunky exposition, but it's going to do this selectively. The movie exposits primarily for its plot, secondarily for its villainous schemes, but actual character work, motives, drives, wants, fears, ambitions, purpose? Well, not so much. In fact, Lex is going to end this movie as one of the shallowest villains in recent cinematic history, but we're not going to jump ahead.
It's funny how he implies that the movie has a wonky structure, but his way of arguing this, ironically, has a wonky structure. Earlier, we were at least getting references of what he thinks is the issue and an elaboration soon after. I'll give him credit for that. Now that he's jumped to the Hammer of Baravia sequence, he makes claims about Lex the moment he shows up on screen, yet he doesn't try to substantiate them with the excuse that this will be done later. Well, thanks for wasting our time because we're left questioning what your evidence for this long tangent is going to be, and the evidence for your claims would be the only justification for pausing the breakdown for this long. Things would move smoothly if you started elaborating as soon as you made the claims. It'd be one thing if this was an introductory section that makes general statements meant to prepare us for later, but we're 26 minutes into the review, and we're still dropping teaser trailers for arguments. No wonder this is almost 5 hours long.
You will recall that the opening text told us that Superman has just lost his first fight ever. He is also, confusingly, the most powerful metahuman. But he lost, which must mean that this coming fight scene will be epic, and the Hammer of Baravia will be a new rival to that throne. He will be the strongest, the best, the fastest, the cleverest, most awesome fighter, because he has to be. He's the first person to ever beat Superman. That's odd. It looks like Lex just read out an instruction. Yeah, he's reading instructions.
34B, 38C, 44B.
So yeah, this is What the movie is trying to convey is that Lex has studied Superman and devised a specific moveset to counter Superman's most common fighting techniques. But as demonstrated, it only works because Superman has no fighting techniques to begin with. It works because Superman just flies face first into his enemies and then lets them hit him.
If we slow down the footage, we can clearly see Superman preparing for a punch. Lex knows that choking Superman would cause him to redirect his focus on his throat, since leaving that unattended could result in a knockout at any moment. Let's not forget that Superman is operating at 83% power, while Ultraman is at full power, which gives his reaction time an edge over Superman's.
And this has to be the case because Lex looking at a screen, then reading a number.
Lex doesn't read a number, he voices the number.
12C. Am I the only one who did the reading?
He watches the fight, then commands a move based on the position Superman is in. And considering Superman is in a restrained position first and foremost, this gives Lex the ability to keep up with the fight much easier. It's almost like that's the purpose of him doing the restraint to begin with.
Then reciting the number over the radio and the hammer implementing the instruction is a wildly inefficient approach that any normal, unskilled fighter would likely do well against, because the time it takes for a signal to get from your brain to your muscles is infinitesimal. It's much quicker than Lex's process, and you have options.
There's a problem with your little comparison here. You can't rely on Ultraman simply having a signal go from his brain to his muscle, because Ultraman is established to be dumb. Lex's guidance is to focus his strategy. It tells him what moves to use based on what Superman appears to be planning, and since Lex was shown to process Superman preparing a fist, he knows that he's planning to punch him. Hence why Lex issues a command that would choke Superman before his punch lands and force Superman to focus on the fact that he's being choked.
And if you do so much as one unpredictable thing, Lex's time to recalculate would end up compounding his issues.
This is true in any fight. Yes, if an opponent does something unpredictable, then that will create more issues. That doesn't mean Ultraman can't fight back. Ultraman is shown to be capable of fighting back on his own if something so unpredictable were to occur. Just to a simplistic enough degree to defend himself and buy time for Lex to issue another command. Another workaround Lex has relied on is shown after Ultraman takes numerous punches from Superman. This results in Lex trying to make the first move once they continue the fight, where he writes down two commands. The first one is so Ultraman delivers a basic attack so Superman would most likely counter with a punch, followed by the second move that's designed to react to Superman's counter. It's almost as if Lex can trap Superman if he needs to.
Superman is supposed to be the most powerful metahuman. The movie told us as much. Superman has never lost a fight. The movie told us that as well. Superman is incredibly fast. We've just seen him flying at extraordinary speeds, and he got from the Fortress of Solitude to Metropolis in just a couple of minutes. He made the reverse journey while injured in 3 minutes. The movie told us that as well. Superman has supreme strength and a host more powers in his set. So how did he lose to a guy who's receiving sequential orders of a fucking list?
Because Lex saw what Superman was about to do, voiced a command informed by him studying Superman's fight patterns, then put him in a restraint that makes it easier for Lex to track the fight and attack Superman.
It's like he knows Superman's every move before he makes it.
It's like you don't work here, but you're sitting there wearing a headset and you were apparently involved in this strategy. Could this possibly be a cue for exposition?
Best. Studying him for years. He's developed over 2,500 fight moves for this situation.
That's really not very impressive. Average Tekken players do that every day, and it doesn't answer any of the other problems I've just mentioned.
It actually does address your questions in more detail than it really needs. If Lex knows Superman's move before he makes it, then he would know how to counter him preparing a punch when he sees it. He would also be aware of how Superman would react to a specific attack, which enables him to command a follow-up attack before Ultraman has even made the move. If he studied his fighting patterns, then he'd be able to make reasonable predictions. If he developed numerous different moves, then he's accounting for a variety of situations.
On top of that, it means there's not even a hint of mystery or suspense about what's really going on.
Why does this need to be a mystery to the audience? Is it really a mystery that the guy who hates Superman and benefits from the Baravian military conflict would be playing a role in said conflict?
Thing happens, villain is immediately revealed, character exposits the super secret evil workings, pregnant women and people with heart conditions are safe to watch this movie because there are no surprises coming.
Recounting what happens on screen is not substantive criticism.
This might be forgivable, just about, if the time saved in the mystery stuff was put into character and the mystery hook then placed on his motive.
We learn more about his motivation as the movie unfolds, so I don't see your point here. From the jump, this scene demonstrates an obsession Lex has with Superman. We learn more about his personal envy towards Superman, and later we see how he justifies his belief to himself and his team, where his envy is seen as a strength rather than a reason to be ashamed. They are putting in work for Lex's character, but I'll give you the chance to comment on that later.
Okay, we know what Lex is doing, we know how he's doing it, but we don't know why he's doing it.
He's doing this to make the public question Superman's actions in Jarhampur, and to give the engineer time to study the fortress and hand him proof of its existence.
Who is he in this movie? What's his past?
His past is a well-accomplished billionaire who has created scientific advancements, feeding his ego and lust for power. His hard work in contrast to Superman's immediate and relatively effortless praise grows his envy towards Superman.
What's his motive?
He wants to be seen as superior to Superman.
Why is his motive?
Because he has a lust for power and wants to be loved by the public.
What turned him into this villainous character with a fixation on Superman?
He sees Superman as a threat to his ego and he wants him out of the picture for his own selfish desires.
And what does he hope to gain from destroying him?
Power, attention, and praise.
Meanwhile, the engineer reports back to Lex with the location of the Fortress of Solitude. Oh hey, she has a little jetpack. But she can't have flown all the way to the Fortress of Solitude on that little jetpack. She got there way too soon for that to be the case.
The entire structure has descended into the ice.
So your issue is that a jetpack allows her to get around efficiently?
We'll shortly learn A, that Superman was acting independently, B, that he did not chat to anyone in the US government about his mission, C, that he is not and has never been a representative of the US government, D, that Baravia is an old and close ally of the United States, and E, that this is all pretty common knowledge. So now we have a metahuman supposedly aligned with a foreign state attacking a US city because an independent superhero stopped them from invading another foreign state. This doesn't work.
It's almost like Lex is trying to turn people against Superman and make his actions seem more questionable than they really are.
The US would not let Israel, I wonder why I chose Israel, it would not let Israel attack its cities just because Elon Musk dropped a rocket on Tel Aviv.
How are they letting the Hammer of Baravia attack their city? They're allowing Superman to defend the city from the threat.
And no, the soon-to-come revelation that this was all a false flag operation will not obviate this criticism, since it is a false flag operation and the US has every reason to believe that the Hammer of Baravia is a Baravian superhero. All this, once again, highlights the attenuated world building. 300 fucking years, James. I think the world would have procedures in place for this kind of eventuality.
Yeah, like letting Superman save the city.
If this sort of thing were commonplace, the world would be constantly at war, and a US government that takes no view on its biggest cities being attacked by their would-be allies is, practically speaking, a non-entity. We are told the US government exists in this movie, we are shown them existing in this movie, but they are not agents in this movie, because James Gunn hasn't bothered to ensure that his world actually works.
You haven't explained why the government doesn't work in this movie. You seem to think that the government is fine with their city being attacked, yet they enable the most powerful superhero to defend it unless there's proof of malicious intent.
Nor do any other metahumans, who are many and numerous and who've existed for 300 years, actually operate by any identifiable rules. None of them are involved in this scene because the script wants this to be a Superman moment, meaning that the world seems to operate just by what is convenient.
The Justice Gang are representatives of the US, so engaging with the conflict could increase political tensions. This is the exact reason they're not in favor of getting involved in politics or breaking Superman out of prison.
But the risk is just not worth the beef between the US government and the Justice Gang.
Since Superman is not a representative of the US and operates independently, and is the most qualified to handle the threat, he's the safer option to rely on. Now, that's part 1 of why this criticism doesn't work. Part 2 is even more damning. If the Justice Gang tried to get involved, Ultraman would fucking one-shot them. So Maxwell Lord would advise against fighting the Hammer directly. If Superman is struggling to face this guy, then ends up losing the fight, sending the Justice Gang wouldn't actually stop him. He would kill them all very quickly. This is an argument you can make for other metahumans out there, since he's also harping on this. How do we know that there are metahumans powerful enough to even stand a chance against the Hammer? Superman is implied to be the most powerful, to a seemingly exceptional degree. And even if there were metahumans powerful enough to stand a chance against the Hammer, how do you know they're in the same city? How do you know they're even on the same planet right now? How do you even know that they're willing to risk their private identities or their own safety to deal with something that Superman is handling? You don't have specifics, yet you're criticizing their absence as if you do have specifics. And given that this movie is about Superman and not what every other metahuman is doing in their spare time, they're not obligated to dive into this in detail. They only need to provide what's relevant to the story and what's needed to understand it.
Enemy supervillain character manages to beat Superman and is now laying waste to Metropolis. Well, ordinarily you might expect this to get the attention of some other metahumans based in and around Metropolis, but oh no, it's not time for that yet. No, so reasons? Fuck it.
Prove that there are metahumans capable of contending with a guy who beats Superman in the fight, when Superman is implied to be the most powerful metahuman. I'd love to see you try.
Remember how obviously absurd it was in Black Widow that none of the other Avengers would get involved against General Dreykov and his army of women that he'd hypnotized with the scent of his balls? Well, we all knew how to criticize Marvel for this sort of thing, but hey, at least it's not Zack Snyder.
The difference here is that we can refer to specific superheroes that are capable of helping Nat in the situation, and she could have and would have called them for help. In Superman's case, if his enemy is so powerful that he can one-shot his main allies, I don't even think Superman would want them in the fight.
Meanwhile, meanwhile, a few miles down the road, still in view of the city, the Hammer of Baravia lands at a small campsite. The campsite is owned by Luthor Corp, which we know because there's a big fucking flag that says Luthor Corp waving above the camp, meaning that nobody is bothering to track a very distinctive evilman in a very distinctive suit who just attacked that city right over there. I don't think I believe you, movie.
Track him with what? Nobody slapped a tracer on him, no metahumans caught up with him, and the only cameras within the site would be owned by Lex Luthor.
The Hammer of Baravia walks into a tent and into a fucking portal device that leads it back into Lex's skyscraper. Oh god. Well, hey. I'm sure the tent camp with the portal machine is all entirely above board and legal. It's not like Lex could build a secret portal device that risks tearing reality apart every time anybody uses it without anybody actually noticing that that's what it does.
The portal isn't public information. Nobody knows that Lex is using pocket universes for his own schemes.
And hey, maybe there's some sort of agreement in place that means the state and federal government just won't ask questions if foreign terrorists very obviously land in the middle of the LexCorp campsite down the road from the city they just attacked.
The landing is only in view of people who are working under Lex. Nobody else is close enough to see what's happening.
But hold on, doesn't that mean Lex Luthor is able to build teleportation portals? That seems like some pretty advanced technology to be introducing in your first movie.
So a first movie is not allowed to introduce highly advanced technology? Platoon, you prefaced this video by saying you'd make objective arguments. Saying the movie has advanced technology is not an objective argument. It's a remark on what it's doing without elaborating as to why this is actually detrimental to the story.
And this entire bit culminates in the Hammer of Baravia being revealed as Ultraman, who is working for Lex, who was masquerading as a foreign metahuman in order to conduct a false flag attack. So, this establishes that Lex is stupidly rich, and that he has a stupidly advanced set of technologies, and that he has his own private superhero who can beat Superman, and crucially, that he is quite happy to break the law and commit treason in aid of his objectives. You might not have spotted it yet, because hey, at least it's not Zack Snyder, but the movie is now broken. 11 minutes in, this entire thing is about Lex manufacturing a pretext he doesn't need to do something he can already do: kill Superman. The movie will proceed as though Lex needs some legally sanctioned way way to do this, but he already has a superhero capable of beating Superman, more than one in fact, because it turns out later the engineer could do it too.
This entire criticism is broken. Let's say Lex Luthor had the Hammer of Baravia kill Superman, which the public and the government have no reason to see as the desired result. You know what happens to dead heroes? They become martyrs. So you're arguing that Lex Luthor, the guy who was so envious of Superman's attention, so much that he wants to kill him, should do something that would turn Superman into a martyr.
Not a great plan.
It's almost as if the goal is to defame Superman before killing him, so that after he kills Superman, he'd still be remembered badly. So badly that Lex Luthor would appear to be the hero of the story for getting rid of him. So, yes actually, it makes sense that Lex would look for dirt to destroy Superman's image, so much that he would get the authority from the government to kill Superman, while Planet Watch is seen as the protector of the world. Another reason Lex would want to gain government approval, through many steps of the way, is so he appears more cooperative with the system than he really is. It helps him maintain appearances. If you're going to make a video trashing on the movie, and talking down to people who think it's good, at least make points with a modicum of intelligence behind them, because it seems like you're using 1/10 of your mental capacity here, or at least what we like to call average mental capacity.
I can't overstate this. The movie is broken.
I can't overstate this. Your criticism is broken.
From this point here, everything that happens is an unnecessary, contrived, stupid mess that has no reason to exist.
From this point here, everything building from this point is an unnecessary, contrived, stupid mess that has no reason to exist.
This is the blonde bimbo taking selfies. It's supposed to be Lex's girlfriend. He delivers precisely one line of dialogue to her in this entire movie. He's not attached to her. He doesn't seem to like her at all, but he lets her stick around taking selfies in his evil headquarters with all his evil plans laid out, because Lex is a super genius villain and therefore a complete fucktard.
He doesn't show much care to Eve because he's using her as an object. The entire point is that he doesn't actually care about her as a person. And the selfies aren't even seen as a threat by Lex. He perceives her to be an idiot that's easy for him to control through fear, so Lex is expecting her to keep these selfies private, and she would obey this out of self-preservation.
Oh, hey, engineer's back! Remember how the opening text established that Superman lost to the Hammer of Baravia 3 minutes before he landed in the Arctic? Well, I guess this means the engineer can fly from the Arctic to Metropolis in 3 minutes. Wonderful. I do love me some sensible, believable, completely on track and easily followable power scaling.
They show you a scene where the engineer can keep up with Superman. This is the scene, dummy.
Am I the only one who did the reading?
This is how you know Superman is an old IP. It was made at the time when most people liked journalists.
These unelected meta humans think they can dictate international policy? It's outrageous.
I agree. If only somebody had raised this problem in the last 300 years.
They're raising the problem when it's happening. They're doing it in this scene. And the meeting with Lex and the government makes it clear that Superman isn't doing this the legal way. They do have laws against this.
Clark Kent arrives at work and is congratulated on his front page story. Then he receives a phone call from his adoptive parents.
Me and Pa just wanted to call and say congratulations on that front page. Boy, that is something.
There'll be quite a lot to say about these two later, as they're in what's probably the film's strongest scene. It is their second scene in the movie. It is also their last scene in the movie. But this scene here, this is really just to establish that they exist, and the sum total of the exchange is, well done on the front page, don't be a stranger.
Pa says don't be a stranger.
And this underutilization is going to be another major problem, this time on the character front.
Sure, I agree that his parents should be more involved given their importance to Clark's arc, alongside the ending payoff.
22 people in the hospital, over 20 million in property damage. It does make you wonder.
Wonder what?
As great as he is, maybe Superman didn't completely think through the ramifications of the Baravia thing.
Well, if this guy is even from Baravia.
Odd that you should mention that, Lois. Hi, by the way. It's a very interesting line of inquiry, and you are a tough go-get-'em journalist. It's also a line of inquiry you very conspicuously do not follow, because doing so now risks exposing the conspiracy before Lex has a chance to exposit it at the audience. Further evidence that the film does not know what to do with its implied history. Lois is a tough go-get-em journalist. Lex is probably the richest dude on the planet. It is known, and discovered quite easily later, that Lex has been funneling arms to Baravia. Yet the movie presents it as if Lois, and indeed all of the journalists in every newsroom in this world, has never even considered Lex in any capacity until just about now.
Incorrect. The film directly implies that they're already aware of Lex providing weapons to Baravia.
I'm trying to figure out how Lex Luthor's connected to all this.
How's that a mystery? Luthor Corp sells arms to Baravia. Baravia goes to war, Luthor sells more arms and gets richer than ever.
Am I the only one who did the reading?
This implies that they've already started looking into Lex, hence why they've arrived at these theories. As Lois digs deeper, she learns more from their financial records, which is pivotal information for her.
I have a connection at Boda Bank. Boda handles the transactions between Luthor Corp and Baravia. Yes, Luthor Corp sold them approximately $80 billion worth of arms, but for those arms, Baravia paid only $1.625 billion.
So Luthor gave them arms for free. For what?
That's the $78,375 million question.
So upon mountains of research, she was able to find something this important. It's also worth noting that research doesn't magically occur overnight. This takes days and weeks of looking into sources, requesting information, waiting days or weeks for those requests to be processed, and trying to deduce relevant connections.
Hey, for one thing, maybe someone should ask questions about that militarized camp he keeps just outside of Metropolis.
Asking questions doesn't guarantee answers. This criticism fails to elaborate as to how this should affect their findings.
In the Daily Planet offices, we get our first plot-moving news broadcast as the TV shows the president of Baravia, Venjislav Netanyahu, who denies that the Hammer of Baravia was a Baravian agent. 300 years, James. You've had 300 years.
What does 300 years have to do with anything?
The relationship between Baravia and United States has been like iron for 30 years until Superman came along.
Listen, Big Benj, if the Hammer of Baravia wasn't yours, then Superman wasn't America's.
It's almost as if Lex is orchestrating a false narrative to bring heat onto Superman.
People have had more than enough time to figure out how this stuff works.
That doesn't mean people aren't going to lie about it for their own agenda. Politicians have been doing that since forever.
Meanwhile, at the Pentagon, it's time for another exposition sequence.
What you're looking at, my friends, is the most powerful being on planet Earth. Ultraman. You created this man. The engineer, former special operative whose blood I infused with microscopic machines called nanites, which she can form into anything she can imagine. And of course, you're familiar with my flying armored forces, Raptors. Altogether, they're an unstoppable force we call Planet Watch.
I'ma stop you right there. You can just make metahumans at will. You can make them more powerful than Superman. You can turn them into the tech equivalent of the Green Lantern. You have already broken the mechanics of this universe, Lex, and we haven't even gotten to your own private universe yet. Why one Ultraman, Lex?
Because it takes a large amount of people and resources just to control one. Lex can only control one clone at a time, and he's the only one with the knowledge to control Ultraman effectively, which is not a power that he would give to anybody else on his team, so Lex remains in control. Why would he want anybody else to know how to control a Superman clone? Also, he had a limited supply to even create a clone, a process which was still imperfect.
Cloning you was relatively simple. You know, all it took was combing the aftermath of your battles until I located a strand of your hair.
Like, imagine trying to do this again, just to find another strand of hair, when Ultraman already works enough for his goals.
But as is often the case with cloning, the match was imperfect. He might be even stupider than you.
If this is true, then it's not worth the time and resources to use a sample of this clone to try making another clone of Superman, and you're less likely to receive effective results than if you used the original Superman, which again would take more digging for him to do when it's not necessary for his goals. All he needed to beat him was one.
Why only one engineer?
Because only one person was willing to sacrifice their humanity for this, and Lex doesn't have the ability to just mind control everyone. The only reason he can control Ultraman is because he is very stupid. Also, he doesn't need another engineer. You need to prove that he needs to have more than one engineer or Ultraman to carry out his crucial needs.
You've got a bunch of Raptors. Wouldn't a bunch of Ultramen be better?
And who's going to control a bunch of Ultramen?
maybe there's still time. Maybe the movie will establish a limitation. It won't, but maybe it will.
The limitation is that Lex can only control one clone at a time, since he needs to be there to make commands. Ultraman can only handle basic attacks on his own, not complex or well thought out decisions which is needed to be effective at the job. If you have an army of Ultramen acting without the control of Lex Luthor, they're going to make a lot of stupid decisions, like accidentally destroying the portal device mid-battle.
So you want the Defense Department to hire your metahumans to take down the Kryptonian? After Superman acted with violence against our Baravian allies, I think it'd be worth considering.
Big Blue stopped the war. Naive maybe, but well-intentioned.
There probably was a story to tell which begins with Superman going explicitly against government orders to do all of this, thereby explaining why the government is interested in working with Lex to establish some kind of check on Superman's power and his reach and his abilities. That isn't what we've got, obviously, but hey, at least it's not Zack Snyder.
Telling me that we could have had a different story is not a valid criticism. Any story can go a different direction, but if you can't explain why this direction is bad, as you've been consistently failing to do, then your argument holds no weight.
The country of Moravia has purchased over $80 billion worth of arms from Luthor Corp in the past 2 years. A cynic might say that having Superman out of the way might not be bad for business.
So this is a world where the government asks more questions than journalists.
As I've shown earlier, they did acknowledge Luthor selling weapons to Moravia as if this wasn't shocking information. What you're claiming is false.
That might be the most realistic thing in this entire world, but it does quite obviously pose further questions. Why hasn't this cynicism led to anything?
Because hard evidence isn't accessible yet, until the evidence of his collusion with Moravia surfaces.
And why will it be parked after this scene? You're a bit put out by Superman stopping a war with what you believe to be good intentions, so here you are about to go into business with a man who can make things more powerful than Superman, who you know is selling weapons to the aggressor in a war you were happy to see stopped, and who quite obviously has shady intentions.
Which is why they don't do business with Lex until they have reason to believe Superman is a threat.
The argument Lex is presenting to the government here works much better as an argument against Lex himself.
Well, what's particularly bad for business is dying. And I have a distinct feeling that's where we're all headed, with the Kryptonian running wild.
Nothing spells imminent doom like stopping wars and being a nice dude.
It's almost like Lex created the Hammer of Moravia to try making Superman's actions appear more harmful than they are.
So we're gonna lock up all metahumans now.
If other metahumans aren't going off interfering in foreign affairs, they don't have, and I have proof of this, a hidden headquarters in Antarctica. And they aren't aliens.
Hold up, Guy Gardner is in this movie. He's a lantern. It's not established in this movie, but I don't imagine James Gunn will change the fact that the Lanterns have their base on a planet that isn't Earth.
Stop right there. You cut off what Lex said right afterwards that changes the statement and makes your comparison a false one.
Let's look at the tape.
And I have proof of this, a hidden headquarters in Antarctica that violates 12 international treaties.
Got you, fuckface.
Building a space station outside of Earth is not a violation of international treaties, and the film never establishes that they're even aware of intergalactic laws. Interesting how this line was deleted from the clips Platoon was playing. You can rewind the video right now just to check. He excluded this line before making this point. Either you missed how relevant this is, or you deliberately hid information to make the film look worse.
And I think there are a lot of disingenuous people online that just want to hate on the film. They don't want to make it better, right? They want to hate on it.
He's also part of a group owned by a corporation.
And that corporation doesn't violate any international treaties.
Superman being an alien and having a private base really isn't that shocking based on what we know about the state of metahumans from this movie alone, never mind the likely direction it's going to take.
How does this disprove what Lex said or make his line nonsensical?
Supergirl pops by for a visit later, and oh boy is that going to cause us some problems. This story doesn't seem designed to persuade the people it's being told to, but it doesn't work if you take it as an expression of Lex's motive either. Why do you hate Superman so much? Well, Superman, he's an alien, and he has an ice palace, so he's definitely he's evil, all right? Just Source, trust me, bro.
When you reframe statements to appear stupid, of course they're going to appear stupid. Lex doesn't state that Superman is evil. He in fact leaves his intentions up in the air.
Well, I don't know the intentions of an unattended fire hose, General Flagg. I just do what I can not to be splashed.
And I think there are a lot of disingenuous people online that just want to hate on the film. They don't want to make it better, right? They want to hate on it.
His argument is nowhere near as cartoonish as what you just said. His argument is built around the idea of humanity's survival and how Superman's actions can hinder their survival, alongside how much about him that's hidden and could raise suspicion of what his intentions truly are.
Shouldn't all that be more than enough for Planet Watch to at least bring the Kryptonian in for questioning?
Why? Why not just ask Superman to come in for a debrief after Bravia?
Because that's not all Lex wants. He wants an excuse to kill him. Getting Superman to answer questions is just a starting point for him to get the government on board with the idea that he can't be trusted and should be investigated. Either Superman discloses his secrets and gives Lex material to investigate, or he continues to cover them up and shows a lack of transparency that Lex can twist to be more concerning than it is. If the government is on board with questioning, then Superman's lack of cooperation can be twisted into defying America, versus if Lex isn't given the authority by the government.
Are we to infer that the government has never had a chat with Superman about anything? That it's never even asked him to have a chat about anything?
Trying to reach Superman is only a move they should resort to if necessary, since publicly trying to reach him can make it seem like they're trying to work with him, which would be a bad reflection politically speaking, especially from Baravia's perspective. It's much easier to deny responsibility for Superman's actions if they have no means of contacting him, which would be even more important when the Hammer of Baravia attacks America because of Superman. Plus, if they tried stopping Superman after he stopped a war, it would be bad optics to challenge him on it, which is something they're shown to care about.
But the optics? Superman is popular.
Because later in the movie, it's kind of implied that he does or could at least speak to the President and the Secretary of Defense from time to time. I don't think Nice Man with Ice Palace is mysterious enough to hand over planetary security to a man who looks like an evil sex toy who has already privately made metahumans more powerful than Superman.
The difference is they'd be working under the government, not on their own accord.
Admittedly, I'm not comfortable with a being as dangerous as him on the loose.
Okay, so you'll be confiscating Ultraman, right?
No, because Ultraman can be the response to if Superman goes out of control.
After 300 years, you'd think the whole alien thing might have become a little bit less remarkable. Did not the movie tell us that we had been in the era of gods and monsters?
That doesn't mean they can't be concerned about Superman, and him being an alien is more of a concern due to how it adds a layer of mystery to who he is, where he comes from, and what his intentions are.
Superman is popular. Less so every day, according to chatter online.
Twitter isn't real life.
But it's used by people in real life.
Generic government goon says, "Hey, yeah, we could use kryptonite." But Lex says there's no kryptonite left anywhere on the planet, leaving you to wonder where it went and what it was used for and why.
Why is this necessary information? I don't need a history lesson for each and every detail about the world. This isn't a movie about what happened to kryptonite. All I need to know is its current status, how it works, and for the rest of the story to stay consistent with that.
Until you remember that this isn't Zack Snyder, so like questions like that, they just don't matter.
I mean, even if you raised the same questions about the history of kryptonite in the Snyderverse, I genuinely wouldn't care since that's not necessary or relevant enough to dive into. These movies aren't good, but I've never had an issue with kryptonite's history.
What it doesn't matter, Lex, because without solid proof of malicious intent, it's just not worth the risk.
And that's it. The government will do nothing. It won't ask Superman for a chat, it won't investigate the Ice Palace.
What happens if Superman retaliates when they investigate? What's the plan then?
It won't ask any other metahumans who know Superman what they know about him.
Why would his friends reveal private information about him? Also, why tip off Superman that you're onto him and you're trying to look into his secrets if you're afraid of him?
Now, if the movie had really leaned in to Superman's growing unpopularity because of his foreign interventions, if he was already in quite significant trouble and the government was investigating him and public opinion was decidedly against him, you could maybe have Lois persuade him to do an interview against his better judgment in a bid to control the damage.
You could do the story differently, but again, this isn't explaining why the story they went with was bad.
One random dude earlier saying, "Oh dear, maybe you shouldn't have done the plot thing," that doesn't really accomplish this.
It establishes what people might be thinking after the Hammer of Baravia fight, which is a reasonable thing for people to start considering. When people are affected by the long-term consequences, they start thinking more about what was done at the time that led to them.
And we'll find out later that all the negative online traffic interaction is being faked by Snyder fans, which means A, there's no particular reason for Clark to say yes to this interview.
Clark doesn't know that the internet outrage is being manufactured by Lex Luthor. How is this relevant to if Clark has a reason for the interview?
And B, there's no explanation for why this is the first time such an interview has popped up in conversation.
How would an interview have come up beforehand? It's a surprise to Lois that Clark would even be comfortable with this kind of interview, and she explains why after it goes poorly.
This is what you do every time you're faced with conflict. You get mad, you pout, and then you pretend like nothing's wrong.
Nothing is wrong.
This directly explains why she would hesitate to offer an interview to Clark. Clark only thinks of the idea himself after she mentions how risky it is that Clark keeps getting interviews of himself.
Okay, so I'll let you interview me.
I'm pretty sure you wouldn't like that.
Handle any question that comes my way.
You can't be telling me that Lois Lane, the cutting-edge, hard-hitting journalist, wouldn't have tried this before?
Well, they are telling you this, and a logical reason was given. I'm afraid your refusal to accept this is a skill issue.
In my rewrite, we could include that she had tried before, but had been rebuffed.
In this movie, she tried to challenge Clark before, and he reacts poorly. So an interview that gives Clark hard questions would additionally be avoided.
The interview itself takes up more time than it establishes anything useful. It does some good work. We establish that Clark gets defensive under pressure, that he doesn't handle scrutiny well, that he's prone to closing up and even running away rather than dealing with something that is personally difficult.
Man, I wonder why Lois would hesitate to interview him.
We're not gonna do much with that later, but it's at least a characteristic. We probably need a few of those, given we're 20 minutes into a Superman movie. It also establishes his naivety, and this, well, conceptually it's fine. Raised in rural Kansas, coming onto the scene just recently, only 2 years of being Superman, I suppose you can get away with a degree of naivety on his part. He's still figuring out his place in the world, how he fits in. His power opens up new possibilities, and the constraints of geopolitics are frustrating him. Though the way the scene plays out, you're left with the impression not just of naivety, but of sheer gullibility and ignorance. It's not that Clark doesn't know the answers to these questions yet, it's that he seems never to have even considered them before. And the man is 30 years of age. His outlook is what you'd expect in the kind of early years part of the origin story that this movie doesn't want to depict. In short, going for a degree of naivety was probably the right call, but going for this much naivety risks being unbelievable. And then...
Okay, before you move on to the next point, you need to explain the previous one. Making claims without citing dialogue doesn't help at all.
It establishes a thematic point that is definitively bad. Because while this scene implies there are moral trade-offs to personally intervening in foreign conflicts, the end of this movie says this is absolutely fine, actually. In fact, corporate-backed metahumans intervening in foreign conflicts is a really good thing so long as they do it with the right reasons.
Just because there are moral trade-offs to discuss doesn't mean Superman should be seen as in the wrong. So when people are literally about to die, I would say that's a justifiable context for superheroes stepping in and defending them.
What we know about Superman so far is that he is a nice, slightly naive dude with great power and good intentions. He's going to end the movie as a nice, slightly naive dude with great power and good intentions. The second act low point will be other people doubting that he is a nice, slightly naive dude with great power and good intentions, but by remaining a nice, slightly naive dude with great power and good intentions, the world will eventually come to see that Superman is really, indeed, genuinely a nice, slightly naive dude with great power and good intentions. Remember how the problem with so many modern female characters is that they are all unchangingly perfect and overpowered, and their story is that they remain the same until everybody loves them, even as they do some morally dubious shit that their movies don't really acknowledge as such. Hello, Ray. Hi, Carol. Everybody knows how to criticize Mary Sue characters, but if you give Mr. Cornsweat Booba and Vajizzle, a large part of the distinction will disappear.
Whew, what a mouthful. So first of all, Clark not fundamentally changing is not the same as Clark not having flaws or growing at all. Clark is showing in that scene to be emotionally vulnerable in the face of scrutiny. His insecurities cause him to question his purpose once he learns the truth about his parents, wondering how he can remain the symbol of hope if he represents people sent to hurt others, since he has claimed to be representing the mission of his parents. But through reassurance, he remembers that his choices are what define him and the symbol he presents to people, not what his parents intended for him. Comparing him to Ray or Captain Marvel is silly.
Now, there are an awful lot of people out there maintaining you're here for more nefarious purposes. Hashtag super spy, hashtag super shit.
Super shit? Come on, Lois. You know that one specifically irritates me.
On the record, Clark.
Banded together from remote galaxies are 13 of the most sinister villains of all time. Only one group dares to challenge this intergalactic threat. The Super Friends.
Oh hey, it's these guys again.
Lois points out that some people believe Superman is on Earth for nefarious purposes and references the hashtags #super spy and #super shit. And Clark leaps out of his seat and shrieks that Lois knows that super shit specifically irritates him.
Oh look, another stupid EFAP criticism. I'm not gonna repeat my video on them, so I'm just gonna let you take a look at that if you're interested.
You every time you're faced with conflict, you get mad, you pout,
I'm not
you
mad.
like nothing's wrong.
Nothing is wrong. Look, I gave you a nice long interview. Longer than I ever gave myself, by the way.
Oh, you can time your imaginary interviews with yourself? That's a thing you could do?
Not for nothing, but did he not leave the Fortress of Solitude with only 83% of his health bar to go back into conflict? Is him rushing into conflict not the reason this interview turned into an argument?
No, it's because Clark often gets defensive and sensitive when met with scrutiny.
Is it not the reason he's in trouble to begin with? You could establish a difference between conflict personally and conflict generally, have Lois throw out that he always does this when she asks him about himself.
You literally just played a clip where Lois implies just that.
You could have her point out that maybe he rushes into other people's battles to avoid dealing with his own.
Well, that wouldn't be accurate, so how is this a good point?
You could have her make clear that they've tried this interview thing before and it always ends this way. That would justify the accusation.
It doesn't have to be an interview, it just has to be a disagreement, which the film implies that they've had many of.
At present though, this charge contradicts everything we've actually seen of his character, as well as the idea that this is the first time Lois has interviewed him. How does she know this always happens if it's never happened before?
She's saying this because it's happened before. Can you put two and two together?
Because this is the first interview he's given.
You can get into conflict and disagreement without it being an interview. What am I listening to?
So yeah, the idea is fine in principle, but the delivery fails because we don't actually have any real characters in the movie yet.
Goodbye, sir. I will not even dignify that argument with a response.
Nothing has so far been established, so anything goes.
Clark is not good with handling scrutiny. Lois believes Clark isn't good at handling challenges to his ideas or actions, and this drives the conflict between them in the scene, while giving a reason for Lois to question her relationship with Clark. How is this not establishing anything? Did you watch the scene?
Even if it contradicts things we've already seen. The scene ends with Lois lamenting that she is shit at relationships, and she knew this wouldn't last. And Clark leaves, which in turn poses a problem, because if Clark believes the relationship might be over, then shouldn't he be worried that Lois knows his true identity?
Are you serious right now? Do you seriously believe Clark would think Lois would just expose his identity out of nowhere? This is genuinely insane. Please don't tell me this is an actual point you're making.
It feels like something a character might consider. It feels like something a character might have to grapple with. It feels like something a character would be concerned about.
So you're actually arguing that Clark should worry about Lois, who hasn't even broken up with him, randomly deciding, yeah, I'm just gonna put Clark in danger by outing his secret identity. Like, that's the most random, out-of-the-blue situation for him to even consider. Like, what the hell am I listening to?
Why is Selfie Girlfriend here?
Because she's his girlfriend? What?
Why have you brought her on this mission to this place?
Because she's his girlfriend, so he brings her places a lot. Like, I don't understand how this could be a valid criticism whatsoever. You're just throwing questions for the sake of it.
But how are you going to gain access?
Oh, ye little thing.
Yeah, no, that's just bullshit. There is a reason the fortress emerges for them. Someone on the team has Superman's DNA, but at this point in the film, Lex does not know how the fortress works.
That doesn't mean he doesn't have a way of finding out. Saying to have faith doesn't mean Lex knows already.
He only located it a few minutes ago. He knows nothing about it. He presents as confident because he's read the script, but this scene cannot actually proceed proceed as it does.
Why would he not inspect the entrance area if he doesn't know? Wouldn't going to the entrance provide him with information?
Nor does it need to. The movie had the engineer suggest digging down to the fortress. If the movie had wanted to put Superman in more danger, it could have had the government working with Lex by this point.
The scene is not trying to put Superman in danger. Also, why would they not distract him if their goal is to study what they can find out about the fortress?
They could dig down to the fortress, which would have the added bonus of the government being present for the all-important discovery of the message, thus saving us some very clunky exposition later.
Lex doesn't want to dig through the fortress to avoid potentially damaging information they can use. It's better to find a way to break in, rather than digging through it and causing needless destruction.
But no, Lex just knows how it works, even though he knows nothing about it and doesn't know what he'll find inside. Speaking of...
We put up this soothing. I do apologize, but this is a restricted area.
Oh, bother, I preemptively played the message to soothe you, even though I didn't know you'd need soothing, in order to ensure that the villains can learn about the message, because the plot couldn't think of a better reason, and without the message, they'd be screwed.
First of all, they would have found the message anyway if they were digging for any dirt they could find. Second of all, preemptively setting up the message is for in case Superman needs to hear it. There's no harm in having it ready in case he does.
Please leave this restricted area that isn't restricted because we don't have fucking cameras outside or any means of restricting it.
They've restricted it by requiring Superman's DNA to enter. Did you watch the movie?
You're just a shit K2 is what you are. Being shit, the robots do not put up much of a fight, and Ultraman and the engineer dispatch them with ease. Lex walks through the carnage with all the confidence of a man who can only see a green screen. The movie is very much concerned with making Lex seem cool rather than portraying him as a human being, which is a missed opportunity. His attitude upon seeing and entering this place could have told us more useful things about who he is and how he thinks and why he fixates on Superman.
Which the film explains by showing his envy towards him.
He's not a man. He's an it. A thing with a cocky grin and a stupid outfit that's somehow become the focal point of the entire world's conversation.
Am I the only one who did the reading?
Hopefully there's something on here we can use to convince the general Superman requires immediate action.
This is what we came for, whatever it is. We definitely came for it. Hopefully it exists. What's that? How do we, humans from the planet Earth, possibly hope to interact with a Kryptonian computer system?
By interacting with the computer.
How can we understand anything on it?
Maybe by using records of its language, which there would be records of since these robots can translate the language.
How do we know anything about it?
Almost as if that's the purpose of entering the fortress and investigating.
How can we fix a message the Kryptonian-made robots haven't been able to fix themselves?
Because the engineer has far more advanced technology, such as the fact that she can control nanites, which would help repair things that are difficult or even impossible for most tools to repair. You're telling me that having more advanced technology allows you to come up with more solutions to problems? Crazy idea, I know.
How could we even begin to translate the language if we do fix the message?
By using any records of the language they would have.
I can't stand the metahumans, but he's so much worse.
I'm sorry, haven't you just made a bunch of them?
Yes, he made metahumans so he can contend with Superman. That's like saying someone can't resent violence if they use violence to defend themselves or others. What a stupid criticism.
Also, why is Superman so much worse?
Because he gets the most attention, is the most powerful, and thus the one Lex is most envious of. This is self-explanatory like the vast majority of your questions.
At some point it'd be really good to get a handle on your motive and your worldview, Lex.
He literally provides it in the scene you're showing.
He's not a man. He's an it. Thing with a cocky grin and a stupid outfit that somehow become the focal point of the entire world's conversation.
That really is it, isn't it? That's all we got.
Yes, we got Lex being dissatisfied with the attention Superman seemingly gets without effort, and he judges him on a surface level because he's looking for things to complain about, which is showing he's envious without directly telling us.
Lex doesn't like Superman because he doesn't like Superman.
No, it's because he's envious of Superman's popularity, and Lex believes it's unfair that he actually worked his way to get where he is, yet can't come close to reaching Superman's status. Misrepresenting his motivations isn't going to convince us that the movie is bad.
Fuck it, if it's good enough for Reddit.
I could say the same about this quote-unquote review.
We'll never find out why, by the way. Not in this movie anyway. The engineer is what she is and she does what she does because she is what she is and she does what she does. And if you want better characters, you are just a hater.
Sure, the engineer is not very interesting in this movie, but she has a reason for her actions. The implication is that Lex has convinced her towards his ideology that he has built a cult around.
The engineer glomps onto the computer because this is a thing she can do.
Yes, this is a thing that she can do. This is internally consistent within the universe. Nothing has been established for this to be impossible. The burden of proof falls on you to show where it's inconsistent, which you haven't done at all.
And she uses the awesome power of nanites and imagination to extract and repair the message.
Correct. She used small and precise pieces of technology to fix something that normal tools can't fix. Please explain the issue.
While she does this, Lex explains that he has created a distraction to keep Superman away, because just as his secret fortress of solitude has no cameras, nor does it have any way to let him know what's happening there.
It wouldn't matter yet if he's dealing with a threat to the city. Also, you need some kind of service to send messages to Superman. Prove they have that in this location.
And just by chance, Superman did not fly back to his Fortress of Solitude after his fight with Lois.
This scene doesn't take place during that scene. It takes place while Superman is fighting the kaiju.
Because we know he can make that trip in 3 minutes, so, if he decided to do that, none of this could have worked.
He's busy with the kaiju.
Making it quite lucky that he decided not to do it.
How is it lucky that Lex deliberately planned a distraction?
Lex's plan to manufacture a legal pretext for getting rid of Superman, remember, is to illegally release a kaiju in the middle of Metropolis.
Nobody knows it's him.
I know, I'm gonna have to keep repeating it, it's gonna get really boring, but you can't have a character restrained by his obeisance to the law and have him demonstrate all his plans by showing how much illegal shit he's willing to do to get there.
I know I've addressed this in detail already, but this is just so stupid. This right here is like questioning why Kingpin tries to do anything legally when we know he does so much stuff illegally behind the scenes. Like, I can't fathom how nonsensical of a line of reasoning that is.
The kaiju fight scene has 3 main purposes. Number 1, show Superman saving people. Number 2, introduce the corporate gimmick squad known temporarily as the Justice Gang. The Justice Gang is composed of Hawk Girl, Mr. Terrific,
I'm not into people's emotions,
and Mum Cut His Hair Man, who is a lantern. Oh, also, number 3, show that Superman is good people. The first is accomplished expediently. You will note that this kaiju is rather large and is in the center of the city. It had to both grow to this size and make its way to this square. Yet to show Superman saving people, the film proceeds as though it popped into existence just as the camera started rolling, which is why you have a gaggle of people who've only just noticed it.
How do you know they just noticed it? How do you know many of these people weren't running already? How do you know people didn't start leaving their cars once the streets got too crowded to move at all? How do you know people weren't already recording?
People in the surrounding buildings still standing right next to their windows.
How do you know the people in the buildings weren't watching the fight out of pure interest and thus only tried leaving once it was about to affect them?
And this little girl here who's just scuffing her foot on the pavement waiting for a trailer shot.
Okay, it's not flawless.
The second purpose represents the film's one and only effort at actually incorporating some of its 300 years worth of metahumans, and it's an inadvertently good representative of the overall problem. A, there are only 3 of them, and they only appear when the plot finds it convenient.
Okay, prove there's only 3 of them. Just because there's only 3 present right now doesn't mean there's only 3 of them in the world. I've elaborated earlier, so I think you get the point by now.
Remaining totally absent when the plot finds them inconvenient. B, of the 3, only Mr. Terrific will play a meaningful role in this story. Mum Cut His Hair Man has only the beginnings of characterization, and Hawk Girl doesn't even have that.
Sure, I can agree the Justice Gang was underutilized.
C, they are owned and managed by a corporation, which implies arrangements the film simply cannot accommodate in any meaningful way.
You need to explain that.
D, despite this, they still haven't decided what their group is called, which mirrors James Gunn's macro world-building problems.
How the fuck is it a world-building problem? that they don't agree on a goddamn name. Like, come on, that is such lazy criticism. And I should have said this earlier, but I'm gonna say this right now. Shotgunning as many questions as you can isn't good criticism. All you're doing is asking about things on screen without putting in the effort to A, understand them, and B, explain how it's inconsistent in the universe.
The third purpose is fine as an ambition, but it is also quite bland and will be poorly served by the rest of the story. Superman wants to neutralize the kaiju humanely, preferably keeping it alive so it can be sent to an alien zoo somewhere. I remind the movie that Lex Luthor finds the existence of one alien to be an intolerable threat to something or other, because it seems to have forgotten.
He knows that they're going to defeat the kaiju, and he's using this as a means to an end to destroy Superman. Also, he's not worried about the kaiju the same way he's worried about Superman, because nobody's going to look up to a kaiju that's attacking the city. What a baffling comparison.
The Justice Gang, however, they take it out violently and it dies. This is because he's nice. He's good people, is Superman. He's so nice, he's such good people, that his moral concerns can't be allowed to actually produce any meaningful character reaction. We can't have him lose his temper with anybody because they are being unkind.
Sure, he could have had more of a reaction to what happened.
Now, ideally, something would come along in short order to fundamentally challenge Superman's nature. His actions will have severe and unintended consequences. He will have to grapple with reality and, in doing so, overcome his naivety. Superman will have to have a meaningful second act reversal and then return to his good nature with a newer and more mature perspective, having been changed by his experience. What I'm describing here is just the basic skeleton of what we traditionally call an arc. Arcs can take many forms. They can use different narrative devices, they can stress different points, they can reach different conclusions. The point, though, is to give your character dynamism, to have them change in some way, to have them grow in order that the story can be said to have a purpose.
So right off the bat, I reject this premise. Characters serve to support a larger point in the narrative, and stories flesh them out to justify why we're following them and why they're so important to the story. This does not require characters to grow or change to be done effectively. But regardless, Superman does grow and change, just not in the way that Little Platoon wants, which is arbitrary at best, not an objective assessment.
When characters do not have arcs, they are invariably flat.
So are villains flat characters when they don't change? Are there suddenly no layers behind their motivations or ideologies just because they don't change? If your answer is no, then the same should apply to any character. A character does not need to have an arc to have depth. An arc is simply an effective way of exploring said depth.
The story is almost always meaningless, and the film has nothing in particular worth saying.
Really? The message behind forming your own legacy no matter where you come from is not valuable at all? That's just a bad message now?
Look, I know we're in an era of gods and monsters or whatever, but I think the news media would probably be too distracted by the Godzuki fight scene in the middle of Metropolis for this story to be leading on the plot billboards so soon.
This was displayed after the fight was over. Also, the video is alleging that Superman is a threat to their planet, which you'd think would make this an urgent issue to address.
Have confirmed the translation, and 30 of the top forensic computer techs have confirmed the validity of the footage itself. Any chance they're mistaken? No. You have the footage? Yes.
It probably says something about the state of the real world that when hearing that 100 intelligence analysts or 58 economists or 9,000 scientists have confirmed a story, I automatically assume that it's bullshit.
Great for you, man. So happy for you. A lot of other people believe video evidence, even if it turns out to be fake, which this didn't.
Apparently lots of people assumed this was bullshit. It's not bullshit. James Gunn has many people in the movie confirm that it is not bullshit. People were still finding it very hard to believe that this wasn't bullshit, so James Gunn confirmed in interviews that it isn't bullshit, and still you'll find people in comment sections saying, as if you took the message seriously, it's obviously bullshit. The news plays the recording of Superman's birth parents that Lex stole from the Fortress of Solitude. Superman really should know exactly what this means right away, and I'm really not convinced he'd stick around here for the big reveal.
Superman is thrown off by the revelation and has lots to process here. He's not just going to react logically and immediately go into investigation mode. He gets the idea once the Justice Gang starts trying to investigate how this was found.
Where'd they get the footage, though?
The news plays the anodyne section of the message we're all familiar with, translated into English from Kryptonian overnight.
They have references for translation thanks to the information in the computer.
What's bad about that?
A lot, actually, but it's about to be overshadowed by something much, much worse.
Both they are simple and profoundly confused, weak of mind and spirit and body, and lord over the planet as the last son of Krypton.
As many lives as you can, so your genes and Krypton's might and legacy will live on in this new frontier.
You must prod our beloved son, rule without mercy.
The biggest question that people have asked, probably you already, is about Jor-El and Lara's message. Is it real? Has it been doctored? Is that the actual
How
message?
can someone not think it's real?
I'm just saying.
How can someone? I don't understand. Like, we did this. So in the test screens, people were like, "Is it real?" You know, with AI, nobody trusts anything. Okay, in the movie.
And you make a point of saying, Mr. Terrific says it's real.
Mr. Terrific says, I know those computer forensics guys, there's no way. That's Mr. Terrific, as smart as Lex Luthor. Then I have Maury, the Secretary of Defense, say, I think whatever you think about Luthor, but it's real. And then the clincher is that Gurkos and Lex are walking together.
Right.
And, you know, Gurkos says, you doctored a message. This is great. And Lex says, it's not a message. It's not doctored.
Right.
It's real. And who thought his own parents would be the ones to bring him down?
Okay. We just clarified. Just for the record. I just want to get it done.
Oh no, how inconvenient that that bit of the message was cut off.
It's almost as if the point of the story is what Superman would do if he learned that information and was working off a false premise.
How inconvenient that the Superman robots couldn't fix it.
How inconvenient that robots can't repair every bit of damage that's done. What a wild concept. It's not like we have real-world references of files getting corrupted or damaged beyond repair.
How inconvenient that the film hasn't yet decided Supergirl should have a cameo, so there's not been another Kryptonian around for him to ask.
If Supergirl is constantly outside of the planet, then it would actually be a convenience if she was around at the time. And if she was, I know for a fact these convenience-obsessed critics would be pointing at this constantly.
Even though she was around because she came by to drop her dog off before the movie started.
Yes, briefly until she goes elsewhere for a long while.
How inconvenient that the Superman robot should have played the message when Lex arrived.
They would have found the message anyway by hacking into the files.
How inconvenient that he used magical bullshit nanites to turn a plank of an actress into a humanoid hack chip that could interface with alien computers and extract and repair alien messages before he knew that this is what he wanted to use her for.
It's inconvenient that Lex prepared for this by making sure his tech is as advanced as possible before taking action. It's inconvenient that Lex prepared for the possibility of having to hack technology. Why would he not prepare for this at all?
How inconvenient that Earth has linguists who can translate an alien language never before spoken on Earth overnight.
They have a reference for it that the robots can use to translate on the spot.
So that it can hit the news in the morning. Though these are but minor quibbles.
You know, it's inconvenient that you didn't pay attention to the movie so you wouldn't miss obvious details before making this review.
I have no attachment to the comics, so I have no interest in making arguments from lore or adaptation. I don't care if this corresponds with or breaks his parents' character in other media. I do care that it is fucking hilarious that they should have commanded him to make a super fascist harem and wipe out anyone who wouldn't sleep with him.
So you can't identify the issue anyway. Got it.
But I particularly care because I now know definitively that the movie will do nothing interesting with its protagonist. Older media is primarily useful as a comparator. Things are not necessarily better or worse because they correspond or don't to older media, but where older media does something better than newer media, it becomes legitimate to raise the point. Older Superman stuff has done this better. Consider what the movie is going for here. This Superman idolizes his real parents, and that message is the most important thing in the world to him. We know that because it's in a single line of dialogue, and that's how character writing works.
We know this because he keeps listening to the message and recites it when trying to revitalize himself. The movie isn't banking on a throwaway line. It just happens to be said when it's relevant.
The half of the message he's heard was benevolent. The rest of the message has just now been revealed as very, very sinister. So theoretically, we have a conflict of visions. If Superman adores his real parents, should he not do what they say? If their message has defined him, should it not continue to do so? How will he square the contradiction between the ideal now set before him and the person he has already become? This debate isn't new to Superman in comics or in movies. But previously, the moral debate has been, a debate. Both sides have merits. The counterpoint has a point. There are good reasons for doing one thing or the other, or both.
The movie isn't creating a moral dilemma between Superman's parents. The dilemma is about how this reflects on his identity and legacy. Since Superman has presented himself as someone who wanted to carry out the vision of his parents, how much can where he comes from factor into his ability to be a symbol of hope to people? Does he now reflect a symbol of oppression, and that is the legacy that he's left behind? These are things people will remember him for, which should make him question his adequacy to remain that symbol of hope. The point is that he's overthinking what this means, when his focus should remain on the core of what makes a person, rather than what makes a legacy. And once he's reassured that his choices are what matter, it reassures him that he can create a better legacy than what his parents have left behind. This is a fairly simplistic arc to understand.
This movie has ended the moral debate in its attempt to introduce it. The counterpoint is so obviously absurd, so obviously evil, so obviously against the only things we know about this Superman, that he is basically just nice and naive, that the answer can only ever be one thing. Should you save humanity no matter the cost is a rich moral question. Should you be nice or become sex Hitler? That is not a rich moral question.
Which is why they don't ask that question. What they're asking is what this means for Superman's legacy, and if he can still represent the same symbol of hope when this is something he'll be remembered for.
I will admit that I am scared, because who knows how large his secret harem is already.
His secret harem, they put it in the movie, I can't.
Yes, they put it in the movie because that's what Lex is claiming. Please explain how this is an issue.
Dude, you got a secret harem? Oh, of course I don't have a harem.
Stop saying it, you're making it worse.
So, you're making it worse by having someone question Superman on what he's being accused of?
Cause hot damn, you wanna know what's a scam? Your fucking education. Nigga, that's what the scam is.
I know this computer forensics guys. They're not gonna say it's legit unless they are sure.
Nah, God, no. Look, I know. The harem shit, it's really funny and you were probably too busy laughing at it, so you might have missed this. Let's ADR in another version of the same line just to make sure that, nobody has missed it.
I'm so sorry, man. But there's no way that message is fake.
There's been a lot of unbelievable nonsense in this movie, but I think the idea that experts quoted in the news are telling the truth, that is probably the most ridiculous thing of all.
So nobody believes video evidence anymore. That's just not a thing that people value in society, apparently.
How nice of James Gunn to put his fans in the movie.
You don't get to make this joke when you've made some of the dumbest criticisms for any movie.
Luke's figured in here. It's coded in my DNA.
Remember this line, it'll be relevant later. For now, K2SO dies, and it really isn't sad because he isn't a character. What's worse, Crypto is missing. The cute animal is in danger. Must be a James Gunn movie.
I understand that animals may be offensive to you, and I'm very sorry they offend you, but this is not an objective point against the movie.
Meanwhile, in the Israel allegory,
Save the people of Jahanpur, and Superman wants to keep them insane.
Mr. Netanyahu, you're still here. I suppose this means we're about to get an exposition scene where we learn that you and Lex were conspiring together to achieve all this, even though we already know that, because, the Hammer of Baravia, there's not a ton of ambiguity here.
There's a difference between framing Baravia to make Superman look bad and working with the Baravian leader behind the scenes. We don't know if he's potentially willing to make his country look bad to defame Superman. In fact, his denial leaves the possibility open that he isn't okay with a plan like this.
It continues to be very fortunate that nobody has ever bothered taking an interest in Lex's business dealings in Baravia, doesn't it, Lois?
This was proven to be a falsehood, but keep repeating it if it convinces you that it's true.
Finds Baravian women the most physically attractive and wants to add them to his secret harem.
Stop saying harem.
Guys, stop having the dictator who hates Superman make false claims to make Superman look bad. That's what you sound like right now.
Vyacheslav Netanyahu leaves his presser. His office has another fucking trans-dimensional portal device in it. There are never any leaks from corrupt Eastern European-ish governments, so naturally this has remained a secret.
Prove that people were interested or even capable of leaking this in his private office.
Vyacheslav Netanyahu goes through the portal to the world between worlds, and oh my goodness, it's Lex. They were in on it together. Lex gives Vyacheslav Netanyahu a donut. Vyacheslav Netanyahu likes the donut.
Yeah, I'm thinking of opening one in my half a jar and more.
Oh god, we're going face first into more Lex-related plot nonsense, aren't we?
So it's plot nonsense that Lex wants to own land? That's plot nonsense to you?
Oh fuck, I guess we're going face first into some time nonsense before we get there. Superman's travel time between the Arctic and Metropolis is established as 3 minutes. We just left Lex and Vyacheslav in the world between worlds, but here is Lex sitting calmly at his desk in his office. Has he perhaps cloned himself?
No, he simply walked out of the portal that's shown to be in the LuthorCorp building, then walked to a different part of the building. This shouldn't take long for someone who knows the ins and outs of this building.
Where's the dog?
Superman continues to be a nice and naive man. His dog is in danger, and now he is unhappy. Footage of his tantrum makes the news. Never mind that the official narrative is that Superman is unstoppably powerful and evil and coming for your women. Yet he is here quite notably not killing or raping anyone.
So because Superman isn't committing heinous crimes on camera, that means he couldn't have been doing it in private? Are you serious right now?
Never mind that the story being believed should spur the entire country, if not the entire world, into action.
They are taking action. Did you watch the film?
The DOJ has a warrant out for my arrest.
The movie has decided Superman is now universally reviled.
No, Mally is shown to shake his head in disbelief, and a guy watching it says this can't be real.
This has to be BS. Am I the only one who did the reading?
Not everyone believes the video. It's a controversial subject at the moment.
That's what we're running with, and yet it seems that nobody's doing very much about it.
He's fucking Superman, what do you want them to do? They put out a warrant for his arrest and Superman hasn't turned himself in yet.
That night, Superman goes for a sulk in his flat while the Justice Gang fights an interdimensional sperm cell in the background. This scene came in for some criticism on EFAP, not incorrectly, and for several reasons.
Oh, you mean like where you guys lied about the Justice Gang not caring about civilian casualties? Yeah, I do remember that.
You can make the argument that Superman has parked his own character. He's showing selfish disregard for Metropolis.
It's not a high-level threat. He even knows what it is, so he can reasonably determine how much his help is needed. The Justice Gang is able to handle it the same way I'd expect Iron Man, Captain America, and Vision to handle Tombstone, without needing the help of Spider-Man. There's no way they'd fail to contain that situation, and the same applies to the Justice Gang. We don't know the strength or destructive capacity this dimensional imp has, so why assume in bad faith that it's highly dangerous and that Superman must help? And another thing, Superman is being hunted by law enforcement. If he gets spotted, then they can interfere with the mission and throw off the Justice Gang in the process. Maybe even risk civilian casualties if they try shooting at Superman.
His objections to needless deaths and collateral damage, and to the Justice Gang, who are fine with both.
This is a lie.
Everybody, clear the area!
And I think there are a lot of disingenuous people online that just want to hate on the film. They don't want to make it better, right? They want to hate on it.
They've been placed firmly in the backseat. But in the scene's favor, to be as fair to it as possible, here we are at least exploiting one of Superman's few kind of established characteristics. Lois complained earlier that he runs away when the going gets tough. We, being charitable, infer that she means in the personal realm, and we have to accept that this is just a thing she knows about him, despite never having interviewed him or asked him tough questions before. But that is what he's doing here. He is running away. Things have gotten tough. He needs a timeout. This somehow is about as close as we're gonna get to character work in this movie.
I mean, you're saying you're trying to be fair, but you're using blatant misinformation to support what you're saying about Clark ignoring destruction or death, then ignore the obvious counter to what you're saying and go on a tangent that doesn't prove this movie fails to do character work.
You have a dog?
Oh, hello, you're here.
You're helping them?
Oh, no, they've got that handled. I was looking for the
thought.
Here's a trifling inconvenience. The movie hasn't re-established all of Superman's traditional comic book powers. We don't know, for instance, if he has super hearing, but it has established that he has supervision, he has X-ray vision, and he can sure fly real fast. It'd be really unfortunate if he forgot to use these powers during the entire day he spent searching, and so he just missed the massive Luthor Corp flag flying over the big Luthor Corp camp set up 5 miles outside city limits, and so he didn't notice the suspicious trans-dimensional portal device that's located there.
He wouldn't know what that is unless they're using it, which there isn't any proof to suggest they did while he was searching. This is a publicly known camp, so this isn't even going to lead him to the dog.
I'm not here to rule over anybody.
I never thought you were.
I don't believe anyone thought he was or could think he was, which is precisely the problem. The movie has made the alternative too absurd to be believable.
It's not absurd that someone pretended to be a hero while committing crimes in private. How is this in itself absurd?
The world around Superman isn't reacting as though it is believable. He's been left to fly around out there all day.
And who's going to stop him? He's faster than anything on Earth, so he could even fly around to these places without being noticed.
And that's a shame, because if the film hadn't done that, this next bit of the scene could have been made substantially better.
I was just some punk rock kid from Baker Line, and you're Superman.
Punk rock.
You are not punk rock.
I like the Strangle Fellows and the PODs and the Mighty Crabjoys.
Those are pop radio bands, they're not punk rock.
By which I mean, if the movie had presented a plausible alternative, one that Clark might even have considered, like benign totalitarianism, benevolent rulership, which impulse could have been made more attractive by his observations of and interventions in real-world conflicts, if it had done that, it would have given Lois a reason to doubt, give Superman a reason to doubt, and the world has reason to doubt him.
Again, I don't care if you can find ways to write the story differently. It's great if you can do that, but you're not explaining whether or not what we have is bad. We don't need a reason for Lois to doubt if Superman would listen to the message that you're trying to rewrite here. Superman doesn't doubt if he would follow the message, he doubts the value of the legacy he left behind, which we already have a reason for. The public doubts him because he presented himself as transparent on where he comes from, but new information seems to tell a different story.
People on social media are suspicious because you are an alien, yes?
Yes, I've been very honest about that from the beginning. I come from a planet called Krypton, which is gone now, by the way, destroyed, along with all of my history, my parents. They sent me here as a baby to save my life.
What do you know about these biological parents of yours?
Just that they sent me here to serve humanity and to help the world to be a better place. They sent a message along with me. That message is why I do what I do. I cherish it more than anything.
And the government is already concerned about metahumans, so they do have a reason to doubt Superman.
Superman's lack of an arc is making everyone around him boring as well. Lois being denied a chance at doubt is being denied an arc of her own. Her view of Clark is flat and unchanging. She has nothing to learn because he has nothing to say.
You should play the scene of some of them talking and you'd realize how you're mistaken.
My point is I question everything. And everyone. You trust everyone and think everyone you've ever met is, like, beautiful.
Maybe that's the real punk rock.
This gets her to reevaluate her line of questioning towards Clark and understand where he's coming from. In a world that's less trusting and caring to as many as they can, Clark's frustration would be put into perspective. Through Lois questioning every point that he raises, he feels as if this plays into an endless cycle of having to justify his good instead of people simply believing in it and using it to inspire others. Instead of simply attacking Clark's sensitivity, she grows to understand it more. It's clear that her trust issues are factoring into why their relationship is struggling, which is why she instinctively sees things from her perspective rather than others. Understanding Clark's perspective gives her time to reflect on her understanding of him and how she feels about him, and Clark's openness to being interviewed at the end shows a change in character. He shows a willingness to understand and accept Lois's side, which makes her more confident in how she feels about Clark.
I thought I might give you an interview. I could fill you in on all the behind the scenes.
Sure, that would be great. How about over here for an interview?
Am I the only one who did the reading?
I never doubted you were good people, said before the halfway point in the movie, is not a reason to invest in the movie.
This is not the core of their conflict, so I don't know why you're pretending it is.
My point is I question everything and everyone.
No you don't.
I never thought you were, even for a moment.
Oh my fucking god, man. Everything and everyone are terms often used for hyperbole. They're not always literal. If someone said, I hate everything about Lex, are you gonna say, well, not actually, because you don't hate on the fact that he's human? Because that's pretty much what you just did right now.
DOJ has a warrant out for my arrest, so I'm gonna turn myself in.
Wait, what? Why?
Maybe they'll take me wherever they took the dog. I don't know how else to find him.
If the DOJ had a warrant out for the arrest of Superman because they think Superman might be planning to kill the men and rape the women, you'd think there'd be some sort of nationwide manhunt, and that any and all superheroes even tangentially connected to the government would now be hunting him down.
They can't find him because he's Superman and can fly around the world in an instant. I don't think crowding the streets is the effective option here. No superheroes have tracked down Superman, and the only ones we see are busy with a task, and they're his friends so they wouldn't betray him.
Also, the DOJ didn't take the dog. Lex took the dog. Lex took the dog when he broke into your fortress, and he quite obviously didn't do that with government help because he denied taking the dog when the two of you were on camera.
But he's capable of holding metahumans that scale to crypto, so they'd rely on whatever Lex is using to contain the dog. Lex didn't disclose that he was using resources to hold crypto, but he still has resources to contain him. It's also the best plan Superman has within the circumstances, and he would try to find the dog. I don't see you providing a better option for Superman here.
Do you have a better plan?
No.
We're doing it.
I get that the plot's wheels are spinning because it's come uncomfortably close to a character scene, and I get that its destination is Lex's private universe that he was able to make because Jesus fucking Christ no, but Clark has no business making this connection.
It's the best lead he has.
If anything, Clark should be very concerned that Lex is up to his private evil schemes, and the government should really be made aware of them.
Why would they believe Superman? Why would they believe anyone without evidence?
All of those. Should have told me that a long time ago.
You've been together for 3 months.
Which is apparently average for people. Anyway.
Also,
I think everyone you've ever met is beautiful.
you're Superman. You could have flown straight into the White House and surrendered personally to the president.
What was that editing? He went also, played a clip, didn't elaborate, then moved on to a completely different point. Anyway, he doesn't know if crypto is being held at the White House or if that's where he'll be turned in. He doesn't know, so he's just going to the cops that are in the city who would be looking for him.
He bitches that he hasn't been read his rights, and he's told he doesn't have those because he's an illegal alien. Utter woke nonsense, am I right?
Why is it unreasonable that a government with a history of human rights violations is okay with human rights violations?
I mean, they're handing him over to Planet Watch, and they're not going to ask any questions about where Lex will hold him or how Lex will hold him, because if they asked those basic questions, Lex would be arrested.
Lex can show them a picture of kryptonite and withhold the location of the cell, and Lex does have the leverage here given that he's the only one who can contain Superman, and they believe that they need to take immediate action, giving them no choice but to rely on him. Not to mention that Lex can claim that he set these terms to avoid information from leaking to potential allies.
Superman is flown to the LexCorp camp outside city limits that nobody's ever shown any interest in, because if they did, Lex would be arrested.
No, he wouldn't, since the camp is legal and doesn't expose any of his crimes.
And he's walked through the interdimensional portal Lex has because Jesus fucking Christ.
It's because he wants to save crypto. Did you watch the movie?
Twice in 2 days. What a pleasure. Luther.
The big Luther Corp flag wasn't enough of a giveaway?
No, he's trying to address him here. When I say someone's name, that isn't because I've discovered their involvement, it's because I'm trying to address them.
James Gunn has chained Zack Snyder's soul to a floating platform, and it acts as this movie's Charon, ferrying unfortunate souls across the river Styx, which in this movie is made of anti-protons, because Lex can make those, I guess?
Explain how that's a contradiction.
Pocket universe. I replicated the Big Bang with a Luther Corp mega collider, tearing a tiny hole between the two universal fabrics. I'm able to access it from multiple dimensional portals I set up around the globe.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Stop complaining that things are there and actually explain how this is a detriment to the story.
Say, remember how the rules in Multiverse of Madness make absolutely no sense because they wrote the script on the fly and they didn't have time for a second draft?
Hey, remember how you forgot to explain the issue before making a comparison to something that gets criticized? Let's see if you make it there.
But at least in the fuck me, I'm gonna be praising Multiverse of Madness. But at least in the MCU, no single person actually actually makes universes, Lex is now definitively an unusable villain. His presence is now guaranteed to destroy any movie he's a part of, because his power level in the first film in the DCU is now incomprehensibly vast.
Stop pointing to the screen and going, wow, that's advanced technology. This is a plot-breaking mechanic. That's not what a plot hole is. A plot hole is when there's inconsistencies in the universe to move the plot forward. Screeching that this is highly powerful tech is not a criticism of the plot. It's just pointing things out. Guys, look, a time machine with a car. Guys, look, a super collider that opens universes. Guys, look, a nanotech suit of armor. This is what we call in-depth criticism, just pointing at things that are advanced and saying that it breaks the world building. What on earth am I listening to?
He can make a big bang. He can make trans-dimensional portals. He can make his own universes. In short order, he can also make black holes. He can tear apart the fabric of reality.
Oh, just like how Superman can defy gravity, use X-ray vision, shoot lasers out of his eyes? That's crazy. Again, stop just naming things that are in the universe and actually explain why this is a problem.
Lex broke this movie long before this point, because within the first 15 minutes he was shown to have the ability and the motive to win, and he proved this by breaking the very law that the movie now uses as his pretext for delay. Lex has broken the rest of the movie because he now has to be colossally, Olympically Britney Spears with no head level of to lose.
Having advanced technology doesn't mean he can't lose. He tries using the portal at the end and doesn't make it in time, so I don't know what you want him to do.
If he fails, we might as well retire the Darwin Awards. And he's preemptively broken any subsequent movie in which he appears, because no movie can possibly account for his demonstrated power set, resources, and abilities.
Yes, you can. You can write scenarios around them that make sense, which this film did.
At any given moment, Lex could create a black hole and suck all his enemies into nothingness.
Which is what he tries doing to Superman in the final battle.
In all the long and sorry history of broken Marvel villains, none has done as much damage to the integrity of their own franchise as Lex. Yeah, that's right, not even Kang. At least we had 3 whole phases before Loki made the entire Infinity Saga redundant. Lex is already functionally the most broken supervillain in the last 2 decades of superhero movies.
If your only examples of Lex being broken are Lex not wanting to turn Superman into a martyr, or Lex achieving scientific marvels, then you don't actually have good examples to substantiate your point. I can easily think of a more broken villain than this Lex Luthor, such as the Lex Luthor that came beforehand.
And we haven't even gotten to his lack of character yet. Because the only way you could even begin to constrain Lex is if you wrote into his character a disinclination to use his terrible powers. Some moral, some ethics, some value system that prevents him. But we're halfway into the movie and we don't even know why he hates Superman yet.
Because he's envious of him. Is that not a reason for a selfish character to hate another character?
To stress this point, because I know people on Reddit will misconstrue it, Lex being a villain who hates Superman in the comics is not an excuse for him having no reason to hate Superman in this movie.
Cool, and you not paying attention to the movie is not an excuse for you to have no reason to hate the movie.
Lex being petty is a disposition, it is not a motive, and it's a disposition that is cosmically insufficient to its task. It's akin to introducing Thanos to the MCU and having him want to wipe out half of all life in the universe because he wants to.
And I think there are a lot of disingenuous people online that just want to hate on the film. They don't want to make it better, right? They want to hate on it.
Lex doesn't want to kill Superman just because he wants to. Lex wants to defame, then kill Superman to take the attention away from him that he's envious of and to use that to prop himself up.
Am I the only one who did the reading?
I don't know what to be. Tell me what to be.
I don't know, just don't be a dick.
It's too late.
Lex is so shallow this line would fucking work, because that's all there is to him. Lex is just a dick, and people are treating this as cause, explanation, and conclusion to his character. It's a joke. It's embarrassing. You should be ashamed to say this is good enough.
I think you should be ashamed to think this review is good enough.
Rex, the metahuman known as the Element Man, he can metamorphose into any known substance, like
So there was kryptonite on this planet. Where's the rest of it gone? What was it used for? Why is there none left?
You already asked these questions. Repeating your points is just padding your video, so I'm gonna skip over this. No wonder this shit is almost 5 hours.
Superman's been out of commission less than a day and already Bravia's pulling this crap.
Somebody should really look into this.
They are.
Oh, Superman has stopped a Baravian invasion. Now he's been imprisoned by Lex Luthor, who everybody knows is selling weapons to Baravia. And oh look, the Baravians are invading again. Fuck, even a journalist could join these dots. And that's just from the information the film has given us so far.
Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how Lex Luthor's connected to all this.
How's that a mystery? Luthor Corp sells arms to Baravia. Baravia goes to war, Luthor sells more arms and gets richer than ever.
Oh, so you play the clip establishing that they've been looking into him, and you're asking why they didn't look into him.
Cause hot damn, you wanna know what's a scam? Your fucking education. Nigga, that's what the scam is.
Luthor can make universes. It doesn't matter if you put the word pocket in front of it, the universe bit is broken enough.
You still haven't explained why this is broken.
Money cannot be his motive, any more than manufacturing a legal pretext can be a motive, because he already has all the money, everything he needs to make even more money, and he breaks the law every fucking time he breathes. Hey, remember Ironheart? Remember how she complained that she didn't have enough money even though she had all the tech to make all of the money? Everybody knew how to complain when it was Ironheart.
Lex doesn't complain about not having enough money. This is a dumb comparison.
Yes, Luthor Corp sold them approximately $80 billion worth of arms, but for those arms, Baravia paid only $1.625 billion.
If only somebody had bothered to look into this years ago when this universe is meant to have existed already.
Where were these statements released? If she requested them, how long did it take to process her request? Also, the conflict wasn't largely brought to the forefront until recently, and we don't even know what Lois was busy with beforehand, but we do know that Superman has been dealing with relevant issues in the city for 3 years, which would naturally lead to Lois focusing on them as well.
Have you found out where they're holding Superman?
No one in the government will say.
Apparently, no one in the government knows.
Yeah, it's almost like that reduces the risk of leaking information and an excuse Lex can use for not telling them.
You need to go through a 20-year permitting process to build a condo in most American cities.
This is an urgent matter where they're going to take action first instead of putting in lots of time for inspections and permits.
I think a world-threatening interdimensional portal to a private universe might violate a few city codes.
Which is why Lex didn't tell them about it.
Lex is holding Superman in a pocket universe.
A what?
Thank goodness for the plot phone. Hit a dead end, need a way out of it. Not clever enough to write an actual mystery plot. It's fine, just put it in a text.
We already know this, so why would they have a suspenseful mystery around it?
I don't know what a pocket universe is, neither does my source.
Who's your source?
I can't say, but you owe me. Big time.
So this is just bullshit. They haven't even got a concept of a pocket universe. They might as well have been told that Lex had Jinjo'd Superman in his kazooie and been told it by someone they know is an idiot. Claiming to expose something no villain with even a fart for a brain would let them anywhere near. The logical response is, well, that person's plainly mad, whoever she is. We should probably just start investigating nearby Luthor Corp encampments.
First of all, that's exactly what they do, hence why you used footage of Mr. Terrific arriving there with Lois. Second of all, being stupid is not the same as being delusional. And she is Lex's girlfriend, so she would have exclusive information. Why would Lois just decide that this is probably insanity?
And pressuring the government to explain how it could let the world's most powerful and most wanted superhero disappear to a private prison that no one knows the location of.
She literally releases an article reporting this to get the word out and build pressure.
Meanwhile, in the fucking interdimensional prisonverse that Lex Luthor can make on a whim because Jesus fucking Christ, no.
Bots here farting outrage 24/7. Trash you online.
Oh, James, you're such a funny guy. That's so clever. Man who can make big bangs and black holes has little monkeys doing his internet trolling. Genius. I mean, it doesn't really help your movie in any way, because if part of Lex's plan is to discredit Superman in the eyes of the public, then he needs to be discredited in the eyes of the public. Monkeys posting like Snyder fans gives the impression that online chatter about Superman is just fake.
If people are spreading misinformation and propaganda and give those things more attention, then this does make Superman look bad. Social media is often used for communicating ideas and information, so I fail to see how this is a bad plan.
He hasn't been discredited. These monkeys are just trying to convince the government that he's been discredited.
No, this is simply to manufacture his declining popularity to lessen the concern of optics.
It's not real. Twitter isn't real life.
It's still used by real people.
Internet monkey trolls don't need to discredit Superman. The stolen message did that.
Why not amplify its reach? Why not have them exaggerate theories to amplify the backlash? You have not given a single good reason for why this is a bad plan.
Bravia doesn't need to invade Jaranpur to discredit Superman, because the stolen message did that.
They explained why he wants the invasion to proceed anyway.
You overestimate the importance of Jarhanpur to me, Superman. That was just a bonus.
Am I the only one who did the reading?
Lex doesn't need to convince the government anymore because he's already done that.
The government wants to ask him questions, and Lex isn't shown to be impatient in this film, at least at this point. He's just running through the motions until he gets the satisfaction of being told, okay, it's time to kill Superman now.
The sufficient part of Lex's plan is make something that can beat Superman, kill Superman out of sight in a false flag operation or a freak accident, lure him to your pocket universe or suck him into a black hole or chip some kryptonite off of Element Man's hand and stab him with it, or use the engineer to suffocate him as she tries to do later. Essentially, it's a 3-step plan. Make something that can beat Superman, lure Superman to location, kill Superman. Nice to have on top of that would be find a way to discredit Superman so he dies as an unpopular man. But that is inessential.
No, that is essential. If Superman dies as a hero in the eyes of the public, he becomes a martyr, which is not what Lex wants.
However, Lex's actual plan is start a foreign war so Superman can involve himself in it in a way that is unpopular for no good reason.
It's to make people question Superman's methods.
To cause the government to distrust him, while having mind-controlled monkeys shitpost online, while locating the ice fortress to steal the message you don't know is there so you can translate it somehow.
Why not dig for potential intangible dirt anyway as a first resort? If he finds anything that he could even spin, that is an objective benefit for him.
So everyone knows the true message, which defeats the object of the monkeys to persuade the government that Superman is a threat.
He doesn't need the monkeys just for the government. He's trying to control the conversation on social media.
So they will give Superman to you and ask no questions so you can imprison him because you involved the government, and that makes killing him tricky until it's time to actually try and kill him.
He's killing him after the interrogation.
At which point you can use your black holes and your pocket universes to fuck up reality, and you can send your impossibly powerful, artificially created metahumans to kill him more publicly and suspiciously than if you'd just done it quietly in your private universe several months ago.
Superman escaped prison. It's not suspicious to try killing him, especially if he's literally resisting arrest. Superman violently resisting arrest would be a good excuse to kill him.
How do you contain a super dog? You beam super squirrels into its brain.
Or you could kill it. You don't need it alive.
He literally says he's interested in studying.
We'll learn what we can, and we'll put the varmint down.
Am I the only one who did the reading?
Most cells are rented out to governments who want to keep their incarceration private. Others have more personal transgressions. A few things I hate more than petty ex-girlfriends.
You know how nobody ever knows about missing persons? You know how nobody gives a fuss about foreign governments incarcerating their political opponents?
None of what you're saying ties to Lex. There's no evidence of this at all.
You know how nobody ever investigates corporate malfeasance and human rights groups just aren't a thing? You know how leaks never happen? How journalists don't exist?
Explain a point already, because I'm getting bored of you just saying things and failing to explain the issue.
Wouldn't be telling me any of this.
Did we ever plan on letting you out? No?
Oh, I can't wait to hear the watertight reason for this monologue. The internet informs me that this is all fine though, because Lex was also in the comics or something, I don't know.
It'd be terminated already if it was up to me. But first, the government has some questions they want answered.
It was up to you. You could have secretly terminated Superman at any point.
He's talking about if it were legally up to him. It's not legally up to him yet.
You had the means and you had the motive. You got the government involved, Lex. They didn't have questions until you brought them in.
It's almost like he wants to be seen as cooperative and get the satisfaction of being told to kill him, and this is being seen as a heroic act in the eyes of the public and the government.
Rex, look who it is.
Oh my god, it's also unbelievably stupid. So rather than chop a lump of kryptonite off Elemental Man, Lex has decided to keep him as a prisoner.
How do you know he can sustain the kryptonite after it gets chopped off? Its production relies on Metamorpho's motor functions. Can I just keep holding a spoon if my hand gets chopped off?
No.
To prevent him escaping using his unfathomable power set, Lex has taken Elemental Man's baby hostage.
Damn, seems like a reasonable way to get someone to do what you want.
And rather than keeping the baby in a safe and unreachable remote location,
he is unreachable. Metamorpho can't reach him.
Lex has decided to put said baby in the cell right across from Element Man.
Okay, and he'll do what exactly?
This introduces a massive and unnecessary vulnerability that will inevitably be exploited because you put the world's strongest metahuman in prison with a guy who is obviously going to help him out.
How is this obvious? From their perspective, they can just kill the baby the moment they try leaving.
I'll be back tomorrow to get the answers we need.
Or, Lex, hear me out, you could stay and you could get the answers now?
He needs to discuss the questions with the government.
Oh my goodness, it's the selfie woman from Lex's office. Now it all makes sense, in a really, really awful, terrible, no good way.
I really don't understand why you're staying in that relationship.
There's even a point to tell me about all his ex-girlfriends he had in prison in his fucking universe. What? Friends?
Once again, it is impossible that Lex's private pocket universe prison of Azkabangles has remained a secret.
Are you fucking kidding me? It's literally a different dimension. How the fuck can anyone just find it?
I love her so much. I think of her as my mom even more than my own mother.
Oh, she feels the same way from the one time that you guys met.
I know, I have a big raging hate boner and it looks a lot like Lex Luthor's baldy head. But this really does reflect terribly on Lex Luthor. He kept this bimbo around for no particular reason.
Because he's attracted to her.
He's let her take selfies all over his secret illegal facilities, and for what?
He made sure she knows the consequences of leaking photos and knows she has basic self-preservation instincts. His mistake was underestimating her ability to show initiative in spite of his threat, which is an oversight arrogant people are capable of having.
An average-looking blonde with creepy toes? I mean, he could just clone... He could just clone Scarlett Johansson and make her under 40.
Why invest in a clone for something he can have with less effort?
Some bickering ensues in which the irritating bimbo gets sad that Jimmy is only here for information rather than to see her, even though she's been sending him information, but who cares? There's no fixing this plot beat anyway.
There's a difference between valuing both versus valuing information.
And then she promises to see what more she can find out, even though I'm pretty sure she's been through Lex's portals before, and she knows where at least one of them is, and she knows about the Pocket Universe prison dimension. Lex took her to see Superman's evil ice monument to rape culture. He doesn't exactly keep secrets from her.
But her allegations wouldn't be evidence. The photos would be evidence.
Lois has just waltzed right into the corporate-owned Hall of Justice to speak to the corporate-owned Justice Gang, because this is just a thing you can do. Corporations are notoriously carefree when it comes to giving journalists access to their stuff.
Well, considering she's the journalist who released the story about Superman being in a pocket universe, they would be interested in hearing what she has to say.
He's in your group. What's it called again?
Justice Gang.
No.
We're not called that.
It's the incredible characterization that really just makes this movie stand out, you know? When we first met them, they were arguing about their team name. Here they are again, and they're arguing about their team name.
Okay, that's great. Explain the issue.
No, Superman is not officially human because he don't want to vote. You know which way that would go.
And the normalcy of the world, doesn't it just scream, this has existed for 300 years?
This gang hasn't existed for a long time, judging by how all of this seems new.
Now we know that the Justice Gang and Superman do not work together because Superman might vote to call it something other than the Justice Gang. It's just terrific.
You may not have noticed, but that example is reflective of a larger point. If Superman is on the team, he'll vote for decisions that Guy wouldn't agree with.
So you know about the hypnoglasses. They make his face look different in your brain when he wears them so that you know who he is.
It's funny because Mother Cut His Hair Man has no tact and no guile, and so he spills secrets indiscriminately simply because it's funny.
Or because he's unintelligent, so he underestimates the consequences of revealing the hypnoglasses, which doesn't say much anyway because they just look like real glasses.
What's that? It also means there's no way the world doesn't know who Superman really is already, because Captain Bowlcut is comedically indiscreet?
This depends. Is a journalist who claims to know who he is asking him specific questions about him? When has that ever happened? Do you have proof of this?
You mean Lex could have skipped his needlessly elaborate evil scheme and found out that Superman is Clark Kent and traced his parents to Kansas and taken them hostage if he'd just asked one question to Mother Cut his hair man?
Why would he need his identity? If he gets the answers from Superman, he can get the authority to kill him afterwards.
Well, fuck it, who cares? It's funny. It's a funny movie.
So you know he's Clark Kent.
God, why does he trust everyone?
Because it's funny. Don't you have a sense of humor, Lois?
Superman sees them as friends and didn't expect Guy to slip up in a situation like this.
I put nanobot GPS trackers into Superman's bloodstream. You can see where his trail ends abruptly right here at Fort Kramer, a dormant military post across the river about 10 miles down. All this leads me to believe, as your article surmised, he really is in a pocket universe.
I don't know where to start.
You put nanobot GPS trackers in your friend's bloodstream?
That's as good a place as any, I guess. How very funny and also very convenient that Mr. Terrific should have done such a thing.
How convenient that Mr. Terrific made a contingency in case any of them get captured.
Also, did he say, as Lois's article surmised, she published a story saying that Superman was in a LuthorCorp pocket universe prison? Well, that sounds libelous unless you can get someone to prove it.
Okay, I'll grant him that Lois should have prefaced by saying that this is an alleged report rather than stating it to be the case in the actual headline.
And absolutely no one thought this might be worth following up, apparently.
What do you mean nobody follows up on this? This gets proven at the end of the film.
Hey, come on, let's go to Fort Kramer then. And then what? Save him.
You want to break a federally incarcerated prisoner out of jail?
But he isn't federally incarcerated. His incarceration was outsourced to a private company with no questions asked.
Which is under the authority of the government.
This was quite explicitly the deal. Captain Bowlcut says he's taken a vow not to get involved in politics, which this isn't.
Okay, let's look at the definition of politics. The activities associated with the governance of a country or other area, especially the debate or conflict among individuals or parties having or hoping to achieve power. It appears the definition touches on the governance of a country, and the US government has Superman arrested, so it's almost as if a controversial arrest is a political matter.
And which he'll discard by the end of the movie anyway.
Because Superman convinced him to, and since Guy is a more selfishly driven character, the optics of saving Jarhanpur while Lex's empire is crumbling would go in his favor.
Oh, I remember this guy. It's the guy from earlier. Remember the guy from earlier? He's the nice man. He's the nice man, and he's not a superhero, which means he is totally safe to kill.
Mally isn't the person of interest in the situation.
Who are you working with here on Earth?
Sir, this is not the mid-2000s. The US government no longer approves of torturing people in black sites.
They don't know he's doing that.
Got lucky on that one. Who raised you as a child?
Tell us what we want to know. No! Okay, fine. Tell us the answer to this totally unrelated question.
How is it unrelated? Asking who raised him is a more specific question than who he's working with, but ultimately, they're in the same category.
Didn't imagine that would go so quickly.
Then why did you choose Russian roulette using a gun with only 6 chambers?
To pressure Superman into giving an answer quicker instead of having him plead.
This is self-evidently a useless interrogation tactic.
No, it doesn't if it puts pressure on Superman to answer immediately, since it can go off at any moment, and Lex can just find another person to use as a hostage.
He could try torturing Superman with kryptonite. He could try torturing Nice Man.
Or he could deliver permanent consequences in a quick manner and force Superman to answer quicker for each person he uses.
He could make Superman watch as he unleashes another kaiju on Metropolis, or as he tears a rift in the fabric of space-time that he won't close unless Superman gives him the answers he wants.
Why is that necessary when that requires more effort and oversight?
He could test Superman's humanity. He could exploit his known weaknesses.
He literally does by exploiting Superman's care for people.
He could present him a devil's bargain. All these options could achieve achieve the coldness and the edge, while also telling us useful things about both Lex and Superman. It could be visually impressive and also intelligent.
You have yet to prove that the method he used was bad.
I'll be back later with someone else you chatted with, and I'll kill them too.
Hey, here's a thought. Why didn't you just bring them all in one go? That is obviously the more effective strategy here. If Superman's psyche survives the murder of one nice man he vaguely likes, he would then have to look down a line of people, knowing what's coming next.
Lex knows Superman cares about people, so it's obvious that Lex would use someone else anyway. Also, it's better to split up his kidnappings to make the disappearances appear less suspicious. He's not going to go through the effort to capture more people than he has to.
Remember how everyone knew how to laugh at the end battle in The Flash because it was just a janky-looking CGI extravaganza with soldiers running in completely random directions and no semblance of tactics or choreography? Yeah, well, James Gunn thought that was great, and he hired the cinematographer and he did this movie. Great soundtrack though, bro. Film's at least a 6. Even though musical juxtaposition is one of the easiest tricks to pull off.
Are you gonna show examples of bad battle tactics or flawed choreography? Yeah, I didn't think so either.
Unbelievable. That jackass did create a party.
This is the kind of reaction I'd expect when your kids promise they'll do the dishes and you walk into the kitchen and find out they did not do the dishes. I was expecting something a little bit more, given you've just discovered the existence of a pocket universe.
You seem to be unable to distinguish between what's overacting and what's an acceptable amount, as well as not being able to outline the issue in the writing. Nothing has happened yet, so he has less of a reason to panic. He's shown to be more anxious later when the portal is being opened.
This is why you don't create a damn pocket universe.
Creating a pocket universe, and you are just one picometer up. You will have a black hole where Earth used to be. And every time you enter or exit, you risk tearing a hole in the fabric of reality.
You what?
Every time you enter or exit, you risk tearing a hole in the fabric of reality.
No, I heard you. It's just, you what? Metahumans have existed for 300 years, and you're telling me that nobody took an interest in Lex's fucking pocket universe that could destroy reality and is based in a tent?
This is not public knowledge.
Just 5 minutes outside Metropolis? Benjislav Netanyahu used it to get a fucking donut. Are you telling me that he might have collapsed reality? This is the first movie in the DCU and already Lex can destroy everything. If you don't see why this is a problem, I don't know how to help you.
All you've done was recount what was said on screen without explaining the issue. Lex believes he can control the machine every time he uses it. Lex is established to be more reckless and arrogant regarding his creations, which is shown when he says he can close the rift if it goes out of control.
We can close the aperture later by inputting the coordinates, correct?
Theoretically.
Great.
You're kidding.
Type of reckless science Lex Luthor specializes in.
Oh, he specializes in it, does he? And you know this about him, do you? Well, that's just fucking great.
Reckless does not mean illegal. If you want proof of this, look no further than generative AI being able to replicate real faces and voices, which is incredibly dangerous to the legal system when you think about the implications for a couple minutes.
So I guess you decided to help.
Only because it'll piss off Green Lantern.
Nothing to do with saving reality from Lex's horrifying science device.
Or he's making a joke here, hence why he's smiling and not saying this with a serious look.
Meanwhile, in Azkaban,
You just killed that poor guy.
he did. It was incredibly stupid. But now it's about to get stupider, because this movie thinks this is a great excuse for Element Man to find his courage and help Superman escape.
How is guilt a bad motivator to change someone's mind? It forces someone to come to terms with the consequences of their actions.
Meaning, Lex put emotionally unstable good people in a cell with Superman, radicalized him, and then just fucking left.
Because the baby is still being held hostage.
You said you can get to my son, right?
The answer really should be no, but this is Lex we're talking about, so yes. Element Man puts his kryptonite away, but Superman is still looking like an advanced case of testicular cancer. He needs his sunlight to heal.
I can't make a son.
No, of course not. Nobody would ask you to do that. That would be ridiculous. So I guess we're just stuck.
I can only make something kind of like a son.
Hydrogen. Deuterium.
What are you doing?
He's making something kind of like a son, lady. Shut up and let him cook. It's kind of like a sun, guys, in that looking directly at the sun is injurious to your eyes, while thinking directly at this movie does irrevocable damage to your brain. Basically, Element Man has made a sun. Lex knows this is a thing he can do. He introduced Element Man's powers in a monologue of all things.
He can metamorphose into any known substance, even substances foreign to this planet.
And while the baby across the gap was supposed to keep Element Man in check, obviously no one's going to kill a baby, so the guard holding it is just going to sit around doing nothing until Superman bursts in and saves the day.
So I wouldn't fault Lex's prison because he's relying on the guard to do his job. I would, however, agree that the guard should have done his job.
You mistake him. I can't carry him when I change forms.
Well, that's at least a rule, so maybe we'll do something interesting with...
Go eat!
Fuck it, never mind.
He's referring to when he turns into acid and becomes a floating head. So yes, he can't carry the baby when he's in that form. He's also speaking from a more practicality perspective than one from capability. His forms are less practical for him to carry the baby with. He only does so later when he has no choice.
Superman and Mr. Terrific free Krypto and they go to escape. But they get attacked by raptors and a silly fight ensues.
With fluoroantimonic acid.
Peak cinema, guys. This is peak cinema. You wouldn't get this shit in a Zack Snyder movie.
Okay, so he won't explain the issue again.
If that river's made of antiprotons, I think this means that Superman is not made of matter, because otherwise he would have exploded.
This is an appeal to reality at best. I don't care if antiprotons or whatever the fuck that is in the real world would have blown up Superman. This is a fictional universe with fictional science. If it's shown to operate differently, and the film remains consistent with that, then this isn't a problem.
That's some pretty impressive lung capacity you've got there, Superman. Blowing your way out of a black hole? This has implications that the film does not even pretend it is equipped to deal with.
Explain them then.
Where were those in the Hammer of Baravia fight? You can't just nerf Superman as and when you feel like it. That's not how writing works.
If the Hammer of Baravia can also shoot lasers, then his immediate reaction would be to retaliate with lasers, which I imagine could result in a destructive outcome if they're both used against each other.
Wait, do you like the way James Gunn is absolutely incapable of manufacturing stakes involving his main characters, and so he deploys not only the save the dog trope, but also the save the baby trope in a bid to convince us this is tense? Oh, it's also unbelievably cheap. Nobody believes the dog or the baby will come to any harm in this movie.
And you know this how? Because the dog was literally tortured in this movie and the baby was held hostage for a while.
And obviously this triggers no alarms.
He hacked the system and is established to be around Lex's intelligence, so of course he would be able to bypass any alarms as well. The system thinks he's authorized.
Lex has no way of telling if someone uses his reality-breaking portals without his permission. Nope, no one knows at all. It's all just been happening completely undetected.
What do you think the purpose of hacking is?
An anti-proton river.
Yeah, Lex can make those, and dimensional portals, and black holes, and entire universes.
And you still haven't explained the issue. That's crazy.
This place is filled with black hole vortexes, and that anti-proton river cannot go ourselves.
You know, I'm really starting to see where Lex's inferiority complex comes from. He now has a dozen different ways of killing Superman, and he can make creatures more powerful than Superman, and he has more money than Superman, and he himself is now more powerful than Superman. But no, he really hates Superman because he has penis envy and he is just that petty.
So you're unironically arguing that Lex can't feel envious of Superman because he's smart and rich? That's it? Because that literally does nothing to address the fact that Superman is the focal point of the entire world's conversation while Lex Luthor isn't.
We'll be coming back to this point later, again and again and again.
Yeah, because you need to pad your 5-hour review somehow.
The balls spot Krypto. Krypto spots the balls. Krypto begins munching on Mr. Terrific's balls. But all is well because Mr. Terrific has lots of balls, and one of them guides Superman and the super best friends to safety. They tumble out of the portal just before it collapses in on itself, meaning that, yes, it is unbelievably lucky that Superman took just that long to escape the prison and to rescue Krypto and to rescue the baby, and Mr. Terrific took just that long to beat the LexCorp guards and to hack the portal open, and they took just that long to find each other, and they took just that long to escape, because if any part of this had taken just 1 second longer, they would now be trapped in Lex's prison dimension forever.
If Superman was early, then he would have waited near the entrance until the portal is opened again. If Terrific was early, he can just close the portal and reopen it from the inside of the Pocket Universe to avoid it from staying open for too long. There is a very easy way to delay this process if needed.
Superman, though, he's still unwell because he has kryptonite poisoning. It is additionally unbelievably lucky that he didn't realize he had that until this precise moment. Otherwise, he'd have been sucked into that black hole.
It's almost as if Superman has overexerted himself and has less energy due to the kryptonite poisoning. It's not lucky that he has a temporary amount of energy after being exposed to a miniature sun, as he would have been given relatively enough to fight his way out.
It's fine though, because he's standing next to a man whose baby he's just saved and who can create the sun. Oh, except that no. Element Man and his baby have somewhere more important to be, so off into the darkness they go, in order that they can thematically pop up later in the movie.
It's not out of character to prioritize his baby's safety, especially since Superman still has a way of being taken elsewhere. He also doesn't want to draw attention to the area, which the sun would very much do.
Mr. Terrific stays behind to secure the portal because the next scene has no thematical character use for him. Securing the portal does not entail telling anyone about the portal, because if the Justice Gang or the US government was made aware of it at this juncture, the rest of the movie couldn't happen because Lex would be in jail.
What if the Justice Gang stops him from using it to save people since they were against his plan to begin with? What if the government also tries to stop him from reopening the portal to save the rest, and have him arrested for attacking Planet Watch without any legal approval? What if this tips off Lex since he is in contact with the government?
He is very upset that Superman has escaped his prison. He could tell the government because, remember, the idea of breaking Superman out of federally mandated incarceration was so serious that the Justice Gang wouldn't get involved.
Why would calling the government help Lex? His priority is finding Superman, and later he can tell them that he broke out.
Telling the government should entail a massive manhunt because we're supposed to believe that they believe, that the whole world believes, that Superman is the biggest threat facing the world at this moment.
But nobody can stop him except Lex. Also, why get the attention of the government when Lex currently has loose ends? His focus should be on covering his loose ends since there was a security breach.
Get out of here, you idiot! Ah. Boom!
There it is, that's the one line of dialogue between Lex and the girlfriend he's kept around solely because the script needs her selfies.
Almost like this communicates how inauthentic their relationship is.
How the hell could he have gotten free?
I mean, maybe Mr. Terrific wiping out your camp that had the portal in the tent.
Sure, I'll give him that the guards should have said it once they woke up, and we see their bodies are gone after they leave the Pocket Universe, so they would have reported it by then.
Girlfriend though, well, she's really upset because Lex was mean to her, and because the script says now is the time for her to be really upset with him, she phones Jimmy Olsen.
She was probably hesitating because sending all of these images possibly makes her a target for Lex, and being abused by Lex would cause her to take action much quicker, not only because she now feels like a target anyway, but she'd want to get back at him for that in the heat of the moment.
What we're supposed to believe is that Girlfriend is smart enough to know what information will bring down Lex, and was smart enough to photograph it all.
That part wasn't due to being smart, she just happened to take photos that captured these details over time, and she figured it out after going through them to see if she could find dirt.
And was smart enough to cultivate a relationship with a journalist, and was smart enough to know that Lex was enough not to stop her doing it, but she wasn't smart enough to confirm all of this out of Ultraman's earshot.
Because she's angry and emotional and wants to take action as soon as possible, she went to the nearest room where she could be hidden and assumed Ultraman wasn't focused on what Lex was saying. She's also not very smart in general, so her judgment would be worse when acting on emotion.
And obviously they won't think to check her phone to see where the message was sent to, so they won't do anything at all to try and stop Jimmy Olsen from publicizing that information because...
Okay, That's a good point.
Lois lands Mr. Terrific's ship at Ma and Pa Kent's house.
Look, I'm Martha. This is John.
Why did you say that name?
I'm not entirely sure how Lois knew to come here. I wasn't aware she knew where Clark's adoptive parents live. He pointedly refused to tell her in their earlier interview.
Your example is while Superman is on the record. He's not answering that in the interview. That doesn't mean he didn't tell Lois in private. Also, Superman can still talk. He talks to his mom right before falling asleep.
They sent me here to rule over.
And her gripe was that he shuts down any conversation verging on personally difficult territory. I suppose he could have told her privately and was just refusing to tell her on the record.
So why did you bring it up then?
That's not a wild assumption to make. I'm feeling fair. I'll grant the film that much.
So you just wasted our time. Okay, thank you.
But it could still have been made into an actual plot point had Clark finally come to trust Lois enough to let her in on this secret part of his life.
She already knows his identity, so I don't know why this would be a plot point.
We are getting to the movie's strongest scene, and I might even go so far as to call it the movie's only strong scene. But this is a very sloppy way of getting to the good stuff. It's like sex after rum. Lois sees the posters of Clark's favorite bands on his bedroom wall. This might have been impactful, educational, worth something if she'd been uncertain about him until now, but...
I never thought you were, even for a moment.
Oh well.
Doubting if Clark is here to take over everyone is not the same as doubting if Clark is into punk rock.
This girl is obsessed with you?
Uh-huh.
How do you do it, Jimmy?
Listen, I don't think you should do any version of this plot beat, but if you are going to do some version of this plot beat, I'd really have kept it confined to Jimmy Olsen. Involving Lois, who is about to solve the supervillain's selfie mystery, pulls her out of the character-driven scene she's supposed to be a part of at the moment.
But she already served her purpose in the scene.
Dragging her away from Clark and his adoptive parents, and to express surprise that Jimmy gets laid, that is tonally abusive.
It'd be one thing if the scene prior was a heavy moment, but it ended on a lighter note, where Lois was shown gratitude for helping Clark, and the parents are relieved that he's going to be okay. So how is a lighter moment with Lois and Jimmy tonally abusive?
Then, Lois spots some incriminating details in the backdrop of girlfriends' selfies.
Your hot ex is a genius.
Wherefore art thou, bald man? Why would you leave this up on the wall? Why would you let anyone take pictures in any room with this in it?
So, I've explained Eve's side already, but the reason he leaves it up on the wall is so he can explain his plan to anybody that's in on it. When I'm presenting something to people, I typically show some kind of relevant display to illustrate what I'm saying. Is that not common practice?
It's like if Tiffany Trump posted Donald's plans for a Gaza City golf resort on fucking Instagram.
Or if Trump started bragging about kissing women without asking just because he's a star and being able to grab them anywhere, and that tape surfaced all over social media. Look up Trump locker room talk to learn more.
I'll be there as soon as I can, okay?
You're holding a phone.
You don't use phones to draft articles.
It's at this point the movie becomes very confused about its own existence and maybe even hostile to it. Lex decides that they need a way to draw Superman out. To do this, he plans to use the portal just outside of Metropolis to tear a hole in reality. So, there are a few problems, just one or two. In the first place, tearing a hole in reality from a portal quite obviously located within a military camp that has your flag flying over it, that might get you arrested.
Where's the proof that this is his rift? Who would even be around to prove that if they got sucked into the black hole? I also think it's worth mentioning that Lex is angry and isn't thinking rationally right now, and due to his mental state, he is fixated more on the short-term benefit than focusing on the long-term consequences of his actions.
In the second place, the last attempt to draw Superman out was with the kaiju, which was very silly, but it did have the advantage of plausible deniability. You could do that again.
But the black hole gives Superman more to focus on, which makes it easier to kill him. More civilians are in danger, danger and the threat is harder to ignore. If there's a kaiju, couldn't he have the Justice Gang deal with it while he goes to stop the Baravian military?
In the third place, you have Ultraman, who has already been used for similar purposes and who could be used like that again.
Like I said earlier, Superman is more to focus on with the presence of a black hole. Plus, it's another obstacle for him to deal with. Lex is essentially throwing everything he can at Superman just to ensure that he dies.
Not counting the many other uses to which he could be put, because we haven't seen what he looks like under his helmet yet. Nor has Superman, because even though we know Superman has X-ray vision, he forgot to use it when he was fighting the Hammer of Baravia.
Okay, and this is what Superman would see. I know this because his X-ray vision is shown to work more like an actual X-ray in the movie, which is not the same as adaptations, where he can peek under someone's mask to perfection.
In the fourth place, this entire shebang kicked off with a staged attack by Baravia on Jaranpur, which Superman intervened to stop. Baravia started moving its troops for another go the minute Superman was arrested. So the movie already has a clear and established way to draw Superman out for a final encounter that would pay off something already set up, and it doesn't need to tear reality in half to do it.
Fighting Superman in Baravia would still be an unsafe place for the Baravian troops to operate. Also, Lex believes he can turn off the machine if needed.
If we're not going to use Baravia for this purpose, we're left wondering just why Baravia was included in the movie in the first place, since its actual involvement in the plot has been superfluous. Remember, it wasn't the Jaranpur intervention that brought Superman down. It was Lex breaking into the Fortress of Solitude to steal his message. It wasn't Jaranpur that made Superman unpopular to the extent that he was. It was robot monkey trolls. It wasn't Jaranpur that got Superman arrested, it was the intergalactic Me Too stuff. And it's not going to be Jaranpur that represents Superman's new commitment to doing good no matter the cost to himself, because he's never going there again.
So as a payoff, I do think it's a bit lame that Superman doesn't come back there at all, or even interacted with anyone after it's done. I think that's a huge missed opportunity for sure, but the Baravian military conflict still serves as a part of Lex's plot, since he created the conflict to have an excuse to kill him and make his actions more questionable to the public.
Meaning that if you cut the Baravia Jaranpur stuff out of the script entirely, the only thing you need to change is the false name given to Ultraman and the ostensible reason for the false flag attack at the beginning of the movie.
But then the interview scene doesn't work and has no context to support it.
That could tear a dimensional rift into the surrounding area.
Something you think I don't know?
I don't know why you're voicing these moral objections when you're going to go along with Lex's absurd plans. It's a bit late to start pretending like the people around him have morals and beliefs, given the enormously evil shit they are already complicit in.
The point is made for self-preservation reasons, not for moral reasons.
Signaling them now just reopens questions like, wait, how exactly did anyone go along with any part of Lex's plan?
Because it wasn't affecting them negatively either.
Mr. Terrific is for some reason still at the trans-dimensional portal in the middle of the Luthor Corp camp, meaning Lex didn't send anybody to secure it even after learning it had been breached.
Okay, it's not flawless.
Mr. Terrific has seemingly not thought it might be worthwhile unplugging the portal.
Can you stop it?
So the rift opens up and rips the cords apart, yet it's still operational. If it's being remotely opened from a separate power source, then I don't see how unplugging it would work.
And now we know that Lex has the power to hold all of reality to ransom, and yet he still has penis envy for some reason.
Because being smart doesn't make you more popular than Superman. I don't know how many times I have to say this.
God, we're almost 90 minutes into this movie now, and its theme can be boiled down to, hey, if you're nice to people, that makes you nice.
If you've spent 3 years representing a mission from people that you've later found out were space tyrants, then I think you're gonna start questioning the legacy you've left behind, or whether or not you can represent a symbol of hope to people. But sure, dumb it down or make it look worse to your audience.
And again, what does it say about Clark that at 30, he has to be told this by the man who raised him since he was a baby? It implies that Clark simply hasn't thought about his adoptive parents at all during his lifetime.
If that was true, he wouldn't care about what they had to say. What this is actually communicating is that Clark's belief in his parents' mission was never challenged, and once he does have a reason to reject it, this puts into question if he can still be the same icon in spite of its association with his Kryptonian parents.
It implies he hasn't thought about his own actions at all during his lifetime.
Nope, this is completely made up. There's a difference between being reminded of something to reassure you when you're overthinking versus never considering something at all.
It implies he only does what he does because an old broken message said that he should.
Another strawman of the movie.
And has therefore developed no personal morality or sense of ethics.
Again, you're strawmanning the movie.
Baravia is invading Jarampur, so somebody else can represent the theme for a minute. Who, you might ask? Well, look who's watching the news. It's Captain Bolcut.
Now, nearby villagers are willing and ready to defend their country despite the exponentially superior firepower of the well-trained Baravian military.
We're not even allowed to have this bit represent a serious moral dilemma.
Because sometimes people are just villainous. There's nothing wrong with having purely villainous characters or groups and stories. Not everything needs to be a dilemma, especially when we're dealing with genocide here.
It's as one-sided as Hollywood types think the Israel-Palestine conflict is.
What?
Just a bunch of noble unarmed Browns against the overwhelming military might of Benjaslav Netanyahu's Baravian Defense Force.
What the hell are you even saying?
The movie probably needs to be careful about this, and so of course it won't be. Captain Bolcut is a Green Lantern forbidden by Earth to get involved in politics. More importantly though, he is part of a superhero team owned and funded by a corporation. It's gonna be quite funny if the movie's final solution to the Palestinian question, yes, it's offensive on a number of levels, is to let Halliburton fix the Middle East.
The villagers cling onto what little hope they have left as they're surrounded by the military.
And that's where we're going, isn't it? Please save us from the Jews, Monsanto Man. I'm not Monsanto Man, he's Monsanto Man, I'm Oil Boy. Sponsored by Exxon. The additionally awkward thing is that
this is one of the most meandering videos I've ever seen. Can you cling onto a single point, then elaborate in full detail before moving on to the next one? You just recounted what happened in a silly way. You didn't highlight the issue in the story.
The additionally awkward thing is that theme demands that Superman's example inspires others to action. But Superman hasn't set any example yet, at least not one that anyone has seen, besides maybe Element Man.
What are you talking about? He's been Superman for 3 years by this point.
Captain Bolcut and Hawk Tour Girl are moved by the sight of the innocent Browns raising a Superman flag, which they were bound to do anyway. What that means is that if you were to cut the entire movie between the opening text and this scene here, Captain Bolcut and Hawk Tour Girl would still have been moved to intervene themselves. Superman has done nothing to convince them while the movie has been running.
The people are calling for Superman specifically, and seeing what his symbol means to them, even in spite of his current controversy, inspires them to help. So Superman does contribute here. They wouldn't have had hope without him. The Justice Gang, at least these two, often find excuses not to get involved in politics because they're worried about the ramifications this could have on them. But seeing how strong Superman's symbol stands no matter how much is stacked against him is able to inspire them to help Jarampur.
Without Superman here to stop it this time, the Jarampurians don't have much hope.
300 years of metahumans, and the only ones in this entire universe are those we've seen on screen.
That's not how a universe works, considering a universe consists of galaxies, planets, and so on. Also, again, prove that there are metahumans that are A, motivated to help, B, also capable of helping by being nearby the country or having the abilities needed to get in there in time, C, have the abilities needed to actually win the fight. You also haven't proven how many of them are even alive right now.
All Metropolis citizens, this is a mandatory evacuation.
Movies very rarely get this right. You can't stage a peaceful and orderly evacuation of a city the size of Metropolis in the 5 minutes it'll take for the rift to arrive.
Okay, it's not flawless.
While the rest of the Daily Planet is in a panic and trying to escape before their giant CGI buildings get taken out in a fight scene, Lois and Perry Ironically White are trying to piece together Lex's business dealings in Baravia. Never mind that the giant reality-tearing rift is emanating from what Lois knows is a Luthor Corp campsite. No, financial misdeeds are the real crime here.
They don't have evidence that the rift is his yet. Also, they plan to evacuate in the scene you're talking about.
I was able to connect with our contact at Vodafone. Luther's been selling arms to Gurkos for pennies on the dollar for years.
You have a contact in a bank? This has been happening for years. It has recently been a major foreign policy concern. Remind me how this has never come up before?
It has, hence why Jimmy said this wasn't a mystery to them. They just didn't know the motive until after they were shown evidence.
Why, you ask? He did it in exchange for half of Jarhanpur.
He doesn't need half of Jarhanpur, he has a whole universe.
So why not have more? Isn't the idea behind greed that someone strives for more than they really need?
Why the hell would Lex want half a desert?
His cultish acolytes believe he's going to create a technologically advanced utopia.
Utopia?
There's a profit factor as well. I mean, the petroleum deposits alone are worth multiples of his investment.
Stop it. It's all impossibly What do you mean his cultish acolytes? How would you know what his cultish acolytes think if you've never met them?
Probably by looking at the documents or plans they would have been presented with, which would mention Luther's vision for his part of the land.
Also, what do you mean petroleum deposits? The man can make a fucking universe.
Which is illegal given the way he does it. Also, why would he give anyone else that knowledge or power?
I think the man's pretty well shielded against fluctuations in the oil markets. I think anti-proton rivers are probably worth a little bit more than petroleum. I think his personal universe might be a little bit more valuable than gas.
Lex wants to rule over people as well, not just his own private universes to keep his dirty laundry. He has to keep that secret, so that doesn't really help him gain power.
I think the fact he can make a big bang probably makes all this redundant.
Which again, is illegal, so he can't just profit off this, and this is not knowledge he would spread to others.
How do you think all this shit got made in the first place? Now the movie is going to go on to tell us something we already know, but it's going to present it as exposition and pretend that it's a reveal, so surprise, none of this is Lex's plan A.
Yeah, because the land is just a bonus, so why are you fixating on this as if this was his grand plan?
His plan A is to capture and kill Superman, which he could have done without the Bavarian imbroglio, but the Baravian imbroglio is presented as his legitimate bonus plan. In other words, according to the movie, Lex has involved himself in this entirely unnecessary scheme, which does not meaningfully alter or even really intersect with his actual plan, and which is both highly illegal and highly visible. And he's doing this because he wants petty cash from petroleum deposits and a plot of land with his name on it as a bonus.
I fail to see the issue here. I mean, you tried with the whole why doesn't he kill Superman thing, and that was an awful attempt. Why is it bad that Lex wants a bonus from the invasion?
Mr. Terrific believes Luther's also behind the spreading rift between universes out there.
All of it seems to be geared towards stopping Superman from standing in the way of the Baravian invasion.
Oh, yeah, by the way, he's also tearing reality apart with a portal into his own private universe. Just thought I'd throw that in. Probably merits a couple of sentences. Stick it in paragraph 12 or something.
That's not what she said, and she brings this up later because she's breaking this all down in order.
The Daily Planet has obtained exclusive information proving that billionaire Lex Luthor is in league with Baravian dictator Vasil Gurkos.
Lex's reality rift is about to tear Metropolis apart and potentially wipe out reality itself.
Which they don't have proof of yet, they only have Mr. Terrific's word.
Meanwhile, at Minoxidil headquarters...
Gotta go, man!
Lex's dumb fuck reality destroying rift device has taken out his own goddamn tower.
Oh no, not the building that Lex can easily replace.
Not sure where we're gonna land when the world is gone.
Then why are you still going along with it?
Because Lex is forcing them to. If you disobey Lex, you get killed.
There's a code to close the rift, but it's too complicated to hack. Luthor will have the code at Luthor Corp.
Where the fuck else was he going to be, Aldi?
Why would he go to Luthor Corp without Superman to cover him?
And then, oh dear, they get ambushed by Ultraman and the Engineer. If only Mr. Terrific had his balls set to Sentry mode.
Because Sentry mode totally would have been able to stop Ultraman and the Engineer. And fuck, even if it somehow could, why would he turn that on automatically when he expects to meet Superman as well?
For reasons of cheap backdrops, they all crash land into a stadium belonging to some American sports ball team.
Or because Mr. Terrific lost control of them and they naturally follow his direction.
Mr. Terrific is immediately knocked out in order that he not have to participate participate in the fight, but he's not killed or tied up or otherwise permanently incapacitated in order that he can wake up and be useful later.
Okay, it's not flawless.
This means it's a 2-on-1, Superman versus Ultraman Feet the Engineer. This should be a slam dunk? That's another American sports ball term. I'm getting good at this. Because Ultraman alone was enough to beat Superman twice at the beginning of the movie, and Superman hasn't learned any new moves since. But what's this? He manages to get one over on Ultraman? Look how easy it is once you remember you're allowed to fight back.
Superman has never fought a clone of himself beforehand, so he'll be forced to adapt on the spot, which means he would have to change his strategy. And since Lex is working off information before Superman had his fights with Ultraman, it makes sense that his data is partially outdated.
This allows Superman to focus his attention on the Engineer. He channels his Jonathan Majors allegations and pummels her into the ground.
It's not too late for either of you. You don't have to do what Luther...
You have no idea if it's too late. Neither of these people are characters.
But Superman believes they're acting on free will, so they have a choice.
You know as much about them as we do, which is to say, nothing.
Why not try to reason with her anyway?
For all you know, she's a fucking robot.
So he shouldn't try reasoning with someone just because they might be a robot? You want Superman to not try reasoning with someone based on an unfounded assumption.
Nigga, are you serious right now?
Now, Angela, as planned, fill his lungs and kill the son of a bitch.
Wait, I'm sorry, this was an option? If she could put nanites inside him, which is what she's doing here, why didn't they do this in the prison?
Because they weren't trying to kill him yet.
You'd be terminated already if it was up to me, but first the government has some questions they want answered.
She can do anything she imagines with technology. Mr. Terrific has benign nanites in his body already. Why not just make him drink tech goo and set it to activate if he tries to break out of prison?
What?
He's under kryptonite. That's the precaution.
Still, at least we've not established that Superman has ice breath that he can expel with such force that it can break him out of a black hole's gravity well. Because if he did have that power, this tactic wouldn't work.
If Superman tried that, then he'd lose a ton of oxygen and other nanites would just keep entering his mouth right afterwards. And these nanites allow the Engineer to contend with Superman, so there's no guarantee he'll even blow them all out if they stick to his insides.
By this logic, couldn't you also smother his brain with it? What about his heart? Couldn't you get it in his heart?
That doesn't mean they can penetrate those parts of his body, which is why they're relying on removing oxygen.
I think there are more effective uses for the tech goo than trying to fill his lungs with it slowly.
Can't he hold his breath for over an hour?
Not without air in his lungs.
Never mind how they know he can hold his breath for over an hour.
They have a clone that they can experiment on.
Believing he's won, Lex orders the invasion of Baravia to commence. This is an entirely pointless distraction, and we don't need to spend much time on it at all. The Jewish allegory, the Jewgery if you will, send their highly advanced mechanized forces to confront the Palestinian allegory, the Palagory if you will. Except unlike real life, the children don't have suicide vests, and there aren't UN-funded tunnels to smuggle weapons to the peaceful civilians. Also, the Jews are after petroleum, when in real life everybody knows they're after gold. Things look bleak until Captain Bowlcut, Hawk to a girl, and for some reason also Element Man is in the movie.
Why does he ramble on so much? Element Man is in this movie to show how Superman can inspire other heroes, and earlier you complained about Superman not contributing anything, so...
Hawk to a girl flies back to Baravia and she takes a prisoner of Benjaslav Netanyahu. He is disarmed, he is now not a threat, the war is de facto over, and the conspiracy has been revealed, so I'm sure she will fly him off for a date before The Hague.
I'm not like Superman.
So she's had, what, 3 scenes? And a third of them now, they're war crimes. What a terrific character.
I don't think she's a great character in the movie, but saying she committed a war crime is not a valid criticism. You're just saying that she committed a crime.
Meanwhile, in the stuff that actually matters, or would if the movie hadn't been broken for nearly 2 hours already, Superman has been subdued by a mask of goo. Mr. Terrific chooses this moment to wake up, but he doesn't really do anything to help. And he's got nanites in Superman Superman's body. We know this. We established it in a joke earlier. Could those nanites maybe be used to fight the nanites that the engineer has put in Superman? Or have we just kind of forgotten they're a thing?
Do the nanites work the same? Does he have enough to counter the nanites in his lungs? How do you know that they can counter the nanites in his lungs? And if you don't know, why are you arguing that he should have been able to do it?
Instead, Superman decides flying up really, really far is a thing he has seen in better superhero movies, and so he figures it might be worth a shot. Ultraman and the engineer fly up after him. We have previously seen that they are strong enough to knock Superman around while he's flying, and even to knock him out of the sky. But that doesn't work in this instance because drama or something.
It's because Superman hasn't tried an elaborate escape like this before.
Why are you punching him in the nanites? Look, you're knocking them off his face. Stop it.
They explained it in the film. Did you watch it?
Doesn't matter if he gets him off his face. Nanites are still in his lungs.
Am I the only one who did the reading? But engineer, envelop him completely.
What does that achieve, though?
It slows him down so they can ensure full control over him.
Well, maybe his plan is to freeze the nanites off or to suffocate the engineer. There's lots of tactics you can deploy in space. Okay, well, maybe the plan is to burn the nanites off in the atmosphere. I mean, that could work. That would also be a plan.
Wait, what is he doing?
What is Ultraman doing? That's what I want to know. He's not helping here.
He's trying to get the engineer to disconnect from Superman.
I won't be able to sustain the impact at this speed! No, Angela, unsheath! He's the only one protected!
Wait a minute. Are you telling me you had the engineer envelop Superman in goo, and now, by some freak coincidence that nobody could have predicted, the goo is actually protecting Superman from fall damage? Then why did you envelop him in goo to begin with?
The plan wasn't to drop him off from a high height, the plan was to suffocate him.
You've been having Ultraman punch him this whole time when you know that goo is protecting him from punches.
It's almost like he's trying to remove his protection.
Ultraman goes to take off his mask. Finally, the mystery will be answered. Who is Ultraman? Is he Nightwing? Sinestro? A fart cloud? Secretary for Housing and Urban Development Scott Turner? The 1989 Denver Broncos?
Get on with it,
I'd ask how this could possibly have happened, but I'm sure Lex is about to drop it in an exposition dump.
That's right.
Oh, goody!
Cloning you was relatively simple. All it took was combing the aftermath of your battles until I located a strand of your hair.
You had my DNA.
Yes, but as is often the case with cloning, the match was imperfect. He might be even stupider than you, if that's possible.
Oh, it was relatively simple, was it? Cloning Superman is relatively simple. This is the kind of reveal I'd have expected from a desperate 7th Superman movie. But we really are speedrunning all the terrible franchise decisions in this one film. Why'd you stop at one Superman clone, Lex? Why not an army of Superman clones? You could call it, I don't know, Project Sentry.
Didn't you just make this point earlier? You did, because I countered by highlighting the obvious fact that Lex can't control an entire army all at once. Don't tell me that I'm just saying Long Man bad when I highlight padding like this. Long is bad when you have objectively overlong pacing like this.
Also, is it not a little bit odd that Lex, whose one thing in this movie is that he passionately hates Superman for no particular reason, should have cloned Superman?
Yes, because he wants to destroy Superman, and he needs a powerful hero to represent Planet Watch. It's also not Superman. It's a clone under Lex's control.
And how would you have explained this if the government had taken you up on your plan to turn global security over to Planet Watch? You don't think they might have asked where Ultraman came from and how he's controlled and what his general deal is?
You don't think Lex would have the motive and means of lying?
22K!
Oh god, we're back to reciting a move list.
6K!
You had a specific move for if Ultraman was fighting Superman in an enclosed corridor with a low ceiling. God, you really did think of everything.
So you're highlighting that this mechanic makes sense.
Always win! Brain beats roar!
He says this while telling his brainless puppet to punch Superman repeatedly in the face.
Which he can only achieve through his brain.
Why?
Yes, do tell. There's barely 15 minutes left in the movie. It's probably time we learned why the bad guy does bad things.
Because you're destroying us!
What does that mean? All Superman has done is stop a war that the government was in favor of stopping. There is absolutely nothing in this movie that can even begin to explain why Lex believes this.
It's almost as if the point is that Lex doesn't have a logical or non-fabricated reason to hate Superman.
Lex isn't even concerned about us. If he were concerned about us, he wouldn't be trying to destroy our reality.
It's almost like we're not meant to take him at his word.
You're driven by envy, Luthor.
No shit. I'm not dim.
Nobody's saying you're dim. That implies you have something going on.
I'm aware envy consumes my every waking moment.
Okay, but why?
13L.
Average Superman enjoyer when they discover you have standards.
I know when they mention Galileo or Einstein or one of these other twits in the same breath as me, I feel a tide of vomit burn the back of my throat. But at least Galileo did something. He wasn't some dopey Venusian catapulted onto this planet just to have the world fawn over him because his strength illuminates how weak we all really are. So my envy is a calling. It is the sole hope for humanity because it is what has driven me to annihilating you.
This is just word salad. Let's pretend it's a burger and slowly extract the salad piece by piece because it doesn't belong there.
I know when they mention Galileo or Einstein or one of these other twits in the same breath as me, I feel a tide of vomit burn the back of my throat.
You recreated the Big Bang. You have mastered black holes and antiprotons. One of this movie's biggest problems is that it has Lex accomplish the ultimate feats across several scientific disciplines, eclipsing fucking everyone else, because they only wrote books and equations and other nerd shit. And it does this while still having Lex be A, envious, and B, a klutz.
All that line communicates is that Lex wants the attention for himself rather than being mentioned amongst other great minds that enabled humanity to even progress this far. That doesn't mean Lex is so envious that he wants them to be killed, otherwise he'd be targeting every scientific mind living right now. He makes a clear distinction and outlines a level of respect he has.
But at least Galileo did something. He wasn't some dopey Venusian catapulted onto this planet just to have the world fawn over him because his strength illuminates how weak we all really are.
He worked his way up from Lex's perspective, while Superman just gets all the attention effortlessly.
Lex continues.
But at least Galileo did something. He wasn't some dopey Venusian catapulted onto this planet just to have the world fawn over him because his strength illuminates how weak we all really are.
This is what is called overwriting. It is the root cause of the disease known as monologuing. Writers get an adrenaline rush and they let the words flow straight from their overstimulated brains onto their keyboards. At no point is sense or reason applied. At no point does the writer stop and think,
this is literally describing your video and you don't even realize it.
Will this actually scan when delivered by an actor in the 3 seconds he has between action scenes? Does it even make sense when it's broken down? Whence does it stem? What is it actually expressing from the character's point of view? What we've got in so many words is Lex is extremely petty, which is why he dislikes being compared to Galileo or Einstein, even though he's already beaten them several times over. Lex is also extremely envious, which is why he now wants to kill Superman, because Superman emerged from nowhere and everybody loves him because he, shows how weak we really are.
No, he didn't say that Superman's strength illuminates how weak we really are. He's referring to Galileo since he's a normal human like the rest of them and had to work his way up to the top.
I think this one could have done with a second draft, James. This doesn't track anything in the movie where Superman has in fact lost every on-screen fight,
which is the first loss he has faced in 3 years. Also, no, he beat the Kaiju, he beat the Raptors, he beat Ultraman and the Engineer, and he beat the Raptors again.
Or at least required others to bail him out.
He didn't need the Justice Gang, he was beating the Kaiju.
Where Superman has been castigated for using his strength to end a conflict, people were simultaneously happy and upset to see ended. Where Lex's tactic after seeing the message was to exploit people's fear of Superman's strength to damn him. Remember, the second half of the message is, rule over these silly people. make a harem, kill those who resist. That is an expression of strength that reveals how weak we really are, and it's the reason people stopped liking Superman. So Superman is so popular because he is strong and we are weak, and Lex will use our fear of his strength and our weakness to turn the world against him. You see how this doesn't make a huge amount of sense?
Actually, it does, because Lex's plan was to turn Superman's power into something to be afraid of. Also, they don't just admire his power, they admire him as a hero. Lex also needed to change their perspective on his character.
Why is Lex this envious?
Because Superman gets the praise and attention Lex wants, seemingly without having to work his way to the top like normal humans have to.
Why is Lex this petty?
Because he's selfish, power-hungry, and his feats give him a massive ego.
You can't defend this tautologically. Lex cannot be envious and petty because he is envious and petty.
Which is not what the film said.
Characters, like human beings, generally require antecedent causes. What happened to Lex to make him this way?
His envy for other successes motivated him to create his own. He became rich and famous off his skills, and it made him ego-driven and obsessed with gaining power.
How did his worldview form?
Through his experiences discussed earlier.
What were his experiences?
Dude, watch the movie. He explains it on a basic level as stated earlier.
These antecedent causes don't have to be particularly tragic or even ideological. They don't even need to be especially complicated, but they do need to exist for Lex to be a character rather than, in essence, a plot device.
They do exist, you just didn't pay attention.
So my envy is a calling. It is the sole hope for humanity because it is what has driven me to annihilating you.
So, Lex is angry, he is envious, he is petty. His anger, his envy, and his pettiness has led him to destroy reality in a bid to kill Superman to save humanity, because he is angry and envious and petty, and he hates Superman, and he loves humanity, so he's killing humanity to stop Superman, because Superman is better than humanity.
Allow me to explain this in a more intelligible manner. Lex is flipping his envy into a positive trait by saying it drives him to make advancements for humanity. He argues that being envious can be a good thing if it drives the evolution of humanity, as a way to make his hatred for Superman seem more logical and justified than it really is. Because Lex is really doing this for himself. He's emotionally unstable right now, so he's going to lack some self-awareness, but he's not doing this for any reason outside of himself.
Also, this justification preceded any evidence that Superman was a threat to humanity.
It's almost like Lex doesn't actually care about humanity. I'm gonna keep repeating myself for this point, so let's move on to the next one.
Punch has fewer syllables, you hairless mole rat fuck.
There's more than one way to punch someone, so the coded moves provide more specificity.
Oh, what are you smirking at?
Brain beats prawn.
Yeah, that isn't brain, that's just you calling your dog. And Lex is just letting this happen. Why stop shouting 1A? He can't whistle if you're punching him in the face.
Okay, it's not flawless.
No!
Remember how in Ant-Man 3, Kang, at that time the big bad in the multiverse saga, was taken out by socialist ants? Everybody knew how to mock that bullshit mercilessly, because it was dumb and it was stupid and it was the worst way to establish your next Thanos-level threat. This is at least as bad as that. The ants had a Type 2 civilization. Crypto isn't even a communist.
Lex doesn't have data on Crypto, and it's not Crypto who beats him up. Crypto merely eats the drones. And Ultraman isn't designed to face two Kryptonians, only one.
You watch him through those, tell him what to do.
How are you just figuring this out? They were there in the Hammer of Baravia fight.
He didn't know what those drones were for or who was controlling them.
Hey, remember how Superman tried to appeal to the engineer's conscience? Remember how for most of his life he's been motivated by his lost lineage, his dead parents, the ideals of his dead world? From a certain point of view, this is his brother. You'd think if Superman was going to try to appeal to anyone, it might be Ultraman. Yes, it would be a doomed attempt. It might be impossible. He might still have had to kill him, but him trying would have been a better example of the movie's theme than his random appeal to the engineer was.
Okay, it's not flawless.
You just made a big deal of destroying the cameras.
Did you actually think this was implying that the teeth were bouncing off a real camera instead of deducing the obvious stylistic choice here?
Hello? Anybody home?
I'm not even going to bother pointing out how arbitrary Superman's powers are. If Zack Snyder didn't know how to write Superman on a character and thematic level, James Gunn doesn't know how to write him on a character and mechanical level.
Still doesn't explain the mechanical problem. Excellent.
Oh, for fuck's sake, there's another one. Just so we're clear, because I don't think the movie really understands this, there is a black hole on Earth. It's not a black hole separated by a dimensional wall or however Lex's private universe worked, because the rift has destroyed that wall. This black hole is on our planet. Now yes, you should never hold comic book movies to anything approaching a real physics standard.
That's a surprise tool that can help us later.
But nor should comic book movies invite real physics comparisons. This doesn't pass even a cursory smell test. The reality rift is basically tearing a line through Earth. A black hole sucks everything into it, and it does this quite quickly.
That's not what happens in the Pocket Universe, so I'm not going to assume it works the same way as a regular black hole in the real world.
If a black hole is on Earth, Earth is already fucked. It's not gonna just be tearing a straight line through a city, it's sucking everything in from all directions.
So you're using real-world physics anyway, despite agreeing you shouldn't do that with science fiction. I don't care if it's not realistic, I care if it's consistent.
Oh, except that for some reason, it isn't sucking the ledge Superman and Ultraman are fighting on, but it is sucking in the stuff below, around, and above them.
There's a difference between sucking in things already falling versus sucking in a platform that's being upheld by a structure.
It's fine, you can just blow your way out, we've established that.
We've also established that Ultraman is dumb in universe.
No, I'm sorry, we can't be playing hero music. There's a fucking black hole down there and it is currently destroying the planet.
But he still achieved a feat and they're on their way to stopping it.
Speaking of black holes,
Hey! This ain't playtime!
Has the black hole just stopped sucking in? Is it now full? Is it now sleepy because it had a big meal? Because if not, you're already dead.
The black hole doesn't pull anything from that far away.
It's gonna reach Baker Line any minute. There are people there.
Why have these people not been evacuated?
Okay, it's not flawless.
Max, I'm closing the frickin' rift. No, they chose him. Let them die.
Just 2 minutes ago, you were stopping Superman to save humanity. They didn't choose him, you're trying to murder them.
He's making excuses to keep the rift open. The actual reason is that he wants Superman to deal with this obstacle.
Lex opens the portal in his office so he and his inexplicably loyal goons can walk out. The portal leads to the universe that is now part of our universe because that's what his rift did, so this is not actually an escape route. I'm not sure Lex has fully grasped this.
How is that not an escape? Hiding somewhere in the Pocket Universe is better than hiding where his building is located.
But before he can leave, Superman bursts in. Lex only starts running once he sees Superman because he really is just that dumb.
Okay, it's not flawless.
Culture Close Rift is in here. I can help. I don't need your help. I'm goddamn Mr. Terrific.
You do, though. The whole point of coming here was that you needed to get the code.
Which he can get on his own.
You piece of shit alien! That is where you've always been wrong about me, Lex. I'm as human as anyone. I love, I get scared, I wake up every morning and despite not knowing what to do, I put one foot in front of the other and I try to make the best choices I can. I screw up all the time. But that is being human. And that's my greatest strength.
Like pretty much every set-piece event in this movie, you could remove it completely from this context and nothing about it would change. It's just pastel-colored shit. Has Superman cocked up once in this movie? Not noticeably. Has he evinced any self-doubt? Not meaningfully, as we have litigated at length, he was never going to make a planet-sized harem.
He does meaningfully have self-doubt, which is why his father has to reassure him earlier.
Has he been scared? Not particularly.
He was scared for Crypto, Mally, Metamorpho and his baby, himself, Jarhempor, The world? What are you talking about here?
This is a guy who was quipping while lying 20 feet above a black hole.
While he isn't close enough to get sucked in.
Has he ever not known what to do? Again, not really.
He literally got himself trapped and was constantly unsure throughout this mission.
He briefly didn't know how to find his dog, but then the first plan he had to find his dog led to him finding his dog.
Which he wasn't sure would be successful, and he almost failed.
Has he screwed up? Inconsequentially, he got beaten by the Hammer of Baravia twice because he forgot he was allowed to fight back. But at no point in this movie has anything Superman has done put anyone he loves in danger.
That's not the only way he can screw up. He screws up during his fight with Lois and is implied to have done so in the past. He screws up by giving Lex the exact reaction he needed to make Superman look bad. And he screws up by not expecting Lex to have kryptonite ready to trap him, which in doing so led to Mally dying. Factually speaking, he has screwed up and his quote does make sense.
At no point has anything he's done had negative, even unintended consequences besides the temporary kidnapping of his dog.
Am I the only one who did the reading?
Superman has been unfailingly nice and unfailingly right.
Even though he loses his cool during the interview with Lois.
And the sum total of the drama was in whether he could be unfailingly nice longer than Lex could be unfailingly a Speaking of, it's Lex's turn to monologue.
That's beautiful, but none of this matters, you patronizing clown. The government gave me the authority to kill you. If not today, then
First good thing Krypto has done all movie. Alopecia Andy here actually thought the government wouldn't revoke his capture and kill authority despite him destroying one of the biggest cities in America and putting the entire planet at risk.
It's almost as if Lex doesn't have a response and he's coping by saying the government still authorized his death anyway as a final dig.
Yeah, I'm just gonna play this again.
You're comparing Lex Luthor, a normal man, being beaten up by a Kryptonian dog, to Kang, who can actually defend himself. What is this comparison?
Lex Luthor has been working covertly with Basil Gurkos and the Barabian government to overthrow the country of Jarhanpur.
He tried to destroy reality. Fuck off. He has a secret prison universe. He just used it to tear Metropolis in half.
Not proven yet.
Seems like the one conservatives and liberals can finally agree on is that Lex Luthor sucks.
If only that were true. Half the internet seems to think he's a well-written villain.
Because he is, and nothing you've said has proven otherwise.
World turned against Superman, and we all owe him an enormous apology.
Hold up a minute. No, those two things do not go together. The discovery of one of Lex's least significant crimes does not disprove the allegations about Superman. The message was confirmed to be real, remember? Over and over again.
This is a singular reporter who probably never even believed the message proved that Superman wasn't a hero. She's not saying to apologize for believing the footage is real. She's saying to apologize for believing in Lex's takeaways. They believe Superman was in agreement with the message that told him to rule without mercy, and once it got exposed, he proceeded to not rule without mercy, and even turned himself in. Lois reported that he was in the Pocket Universe trying to save the dog, and his first act after escape was to save the city. So, the reporter is justified in believing that Superman is owed an apology.
But oh look, what's this in the ticker tape on the digital copy? Why, that seems to say that it was a fake image. I'm not convinced James Gunn has quite figured this out yet.
I assume that's a production error. A small background detail not making sense is basically a nitpick anyway, so...
Well, regardless, Superman's past good deeds did not lead people to forgive him the revelation that his parents wanted him to rule 34 all the persons of vagina on the earth. And I don't think news of his latest good deed, saving Metropolis, has actually hit the news yet. Even if it did, it doesn't disprove the allegations. The movie thinks that Superman doing an as-yet unpublicized good deed obviates the belief that he is here to rape and to rule, but these two things are unconnected. Obviously, he would have a motive in stopping the planet being destroyed. He has to turn the planet into a harem.
Okay, so where does turning himself in for an interrogation play a role into this? This almost got him captured forever or killed. Explain that.
Glad you're not concerned about the metahumans, Rick, because now they're the ones making the rules.
Now, what about the last 300 years, James?
Can you prove they were powerful enough, motivated enough, or even close enough to do what they did? Can you prove that other metahumans didn't prevent bad ones from taking over? Can you even give me a number of them that exist in recent years? You're basing your arguments off vague historical details that could have gone in so many different ways.
Meanwhile, at the Fortress of Solitude,
got this place cleaned up pretty good.
How? They were all dead. Who fixed them?
Superman fixed them, and they would have done the cleanup afterwards. The day Mr. Terrific and Lois saved Superman was the 22nd. The day Clark's article came out was the 24th, which means the day Superman saved the city was the 23rd. So on the 23rd, he would have fixed the robots so they can clean up, work on the article, then eventually come back to check on them. Now, the movie shouldn't have to spell all of this out in detail because who the fuck actually cares about the details as to how a place gets cleaned up?
What the hell, dude?
Oh god, this is gonna be annoying. I really like Millie Alcock. I think she's excellent in House of the Dragon. She seems really charming, and her name is an inspiration. All the cock. But there's basically no way her cameo here won't cause catastrophic problems for the movie.
Why did you move the door?
I didn't move the door.
Where's my dog?
I'll raise you one. Why didn't you tell Clark what his parents were really like?
Prove she knew?
You're a Kryptonian.
That doesn't mean she knew his parents.
Basically, every other version of your character spent time on Krypton before it was destroyed.
So you're making an adaptation argument to criticize the movie despite the fact you've criticized people for using comics to defend the movie.
What? What are you, stupid? What are you talking about?
The Gunverse really needs to change this to accommodate her.
Okay, and if he does, then it debunks your claim that there's no way this doesn't create problems. We don't have her movie yet, so why are you making a bad faith assumption?
James Gunn addressed this question in a Rolling Stone interview, and whenever you hear the words James Gunn addressed, your immediate follow-up should be, did he really though? Question. I think people want to be reassured that there's a good explanation for why Supergirl didn't tell Superman about his parents, since she's presumably more knowledgeable about Krypton. I assume this is how Rolling Stone people sound. James Gunn. You're assuming that everybody on Krypton is the same, and how would she know? She's younger than him, so she wouldn't know. She wouldn't know anything about his parents. That's not at all how James Gunn sounds, but fuck it. This does confirm an important change. This version of Supergirl is, for now at least until James Gunn changes his mind again, younger than Superman.
Wait, so, okay, why are you criticizing it? You said there's no way the cameo will not create catastrophic problems in this movie. Rewind if you don't believe me, that's what he said. You said there needs to be a change, then acknowledge James Gunn is making a change here. So why is this a point in your review?
Reason number 5,981 that, but the comics is not an argument.
You literally just used other adaptations as an argument against it.
Hello? Anybody home?
So this point is at present more a concern than it is a criticism.
Not how you framed it initially, but swift backpedal.
But the argument that she wouldn't know because not everyone on Krypton is the same, and she wouldn't know anything about his parents, well, that's kind of nonsense.
Literally how? If not all of Krypton is like Clark's parents, then she has no reason to assume his parents must have been corrupt people.
She's Superman's cousin after all, and if Superman's parents were unusual in their rape culture advocacy, then you'd think that would make them more noteworthy on Krypton, not less.
No, if anything, there's more reason to hide their belief system from others unless they're on board with it.
She likes to go and party on other planets. Planets with red suns. Oh, because of our metabolism, we can't get drunk on a planet with a yellow sun.
But she's on a planet with a yellow sun.
She didn't get drunk on a planet with a yellow sun. She was already drunk.
She had to fly through a whole solar system with a yellow sun to get back here.
And a yellow sun doesn't instantly remove the effects. Superman's injuries only get instantly healed once the magnifying glass was used. This doesn't happen straight away.
Wouldn't the yellow sun just instantly sober her up?
No, that's not how it works.
For the lack of anything better, that is it. There's a mid-credit scene. It's Superman sitting on the moon with Krypto, which is honestly a shot we should have had in the movie's second act low point, given A, it could represent Superman struggling with the burden of Earth, and B, Supergirl just left with Krypto. So the mid-credit scene, it breaks chronology.
No, it doesn't. It's just showing extra material taking place beforehand, which is what the next post-credit scene does as well.
The end of the beginning of the DCU, and I suspect of the end of the superhero genre.
The rest of his video is basically 1 hour and 20 minutes of repeating many of the same points he made, with some different ones, but also comparing Superman's writing choices to other movies. This is mostly padding, and you don't need to see much of this to grasp the meat of his criticisms. Maybe I'll do a part 2 to showcase this, since he cut down this portion for his second channel. Let me know if this is something you want to see, and if I get accused of not responding to the full video, or taking the video out of context because I didn't respond to this last part, then sure, I guess I'll make a part 2. This video didn't need to be 5 hours long, and before I see EFAP fanboys saying, "Long man bad," long is bad if it's not concise. This video is not concise. It repeats itself numerous times and pads its pacing by making claims, then not elaborating until he repeats the same claims later. He also doesn't explain some of the points he makes. Even for long-form videos, there's a far more concise way to do this. Even if I agreed with all of these criticisms, I could probably get this all out in an hour, maybe approaching 2. I wouldn't need fucking 5. That's all I've got to say for now. This was a very long one. I hope you all had a happy new year, and I'll see you all in the bright future. Goodbye.